Gunn opened up about his Creature Commando series. We also got an announcement here for a Blue Beetle animated series. We're going to get into more of our animated bag with Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim, as we have ourselves a brand new first look. And believe it or not, deja vu when it comes to Marvel in regards to this upcoming Blade movie, but we'll get all into it on the other side, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you soon. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you guys are certainly watching us from. It is, in fact, 11 a.m. here in Dallas, Texas. Good old 9 o'clock over on the Bay Area for Stuart. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are certainly out there watching us today. We appreciate you guys certainly coming through and joining us.
And to
What's
quote
up?
How I Met Your Mother, to all the not fathers out there, happy not a Father's Day.
What's going on, Stuart? How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I just finished a book recently called A Movie Making Nerd by James Rolfe, who I'm pretty sure most of you guys will know as the angry video game nerd. It was a good read. Something that was cool about it. There were a lot of things from his childhood, particularly, that I actually could kind of relate to. Growing up, very much like it seems like the two of us both kind of were like on the spectrum, growing up, and just kind of the way like things, I don't know how to describe it. Like some of the things of him growing up were very similar to mine, just except for him, it was a very different environment because it was the 80s, whereas me, it was of course early 2000s, but it was a good read.
That's cool, man. That's good. I'm glad you got some reading in, bro. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last book I was reading. It was probably a Star Wars book, honestly. I think it was Tempest Runner, if I'm not mistaken, part of the High Republic. I didn't get a chance to finish it, but I definitely will here as I continue my path through the High Republic phases. But look, guys, I want to know: are you guys reading any books right now? What's the last book that you read? We definitely want to know. But good to see you, Stuart. We're probably try and wrap up this show. I don't want to say relatively early, but at least on a timely manner here this week, as we both have some. I was going to say both of us have some Father's Day things to do, but at least I certainly do. I know you got some plans to definitely go ahead and do today as well. But I also got to remember to call my stepdad. And wish him a happy Father's Day. So wherever you guys are at, if you haven't wished your significant father Father's Day, please go ahead and do. Let's give some shout outs to some people that are watching us live today, man. We got Blossom in the house. What's up, Blossom? Appreciate you seeing you here today. Just as for Blue Beetle, I haven't seen him since Young Justice. He and Impulse were almost always seen with each other. Have you seen the Blue Beetle movie by any chance, or just animation?
Yeah, I saw the movie. I thought it was pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, I've seen it several times now, and I really enjoy it. I have a fun time with the movie. It's a really a fun one. Maybe also because I'm Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican, and now now that my girlfriend and her family are Mexican, it's like I get the references, and so it makes it that much more enjoyable for me, just seeing their culture and whatnot in the movie. It's pretty fun though. I'm a big fan of Jolo and George Lopez, of course.
Oh yeah, George Lopez, like always, just made me laugh throughout the whole movie. And yeah, Jolo,
Yeah,
he's a great actor. I'm glad he's getting some more big roles.
yeah, me too. As for Power Rangers, like I said, with the other Sentai, my bestie, I will give unadapted ones a home. Who else we got in here? Marcelino. What's up, Marcelino? Hey guys, tragically, Benny Potter, aka the comic historian, has passed away at 40. May the King comic book YouTuber rest in peace, and we will cherish the great memories he gave us. Yeah, man. Comic historian definitely left his imprint on social media, on YouTube for sure. I think he had like over 2 million subs, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he definitely had a huge outreach and was always a great source of information, especially for people that didn't know comic books, or even if you did know comic books. I mean, it always felt like you would watch something and learn something new from him. The guy was just so incredibly knowledgeable, and I haven't watched him in quite some time, but I do remember using a lot of his videos to help some of my friends that didn't know about comic books or characters that were upcoming in movies, and was like would present them to present their videos, his videos to them. So yeah, man, just a tragic passing. It's such a young age, bro. Like I'm literally 41, and so I mean we're pretty close in age. So I don't know how he passed. I don't know if they've explained any of that whatsoever, but
It
still a
was
huge loss, honestly.
it was a car accident, from
Oh
what I
no.
hear.
Okay.
But like from what I understand, he wasn't like he was drunk driving or anything. It was just one of those really bad freak accidents where there was just something wrong with the road at the time.
Mm.
Yeah, but same here though, like in terms of like recommending him to people who are like trying to get into comic books, because I've actually a few times now I've had coworkers like saying, hey, if I want to get into comic books, where do I start? And one of my recommendations, like first of all, I just say, pick up a comic book that looks interesting to you, and if you're having trouble on like trying to figure out where like what they're referencing, things like that, one of the easiest ways to do a catch up is to watch through comic historians videos like on certain subjects, and then it really helps you like feel like you're caught up and ready to get into the very next comic book that you want to get into.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So definitely a tragic loss. So definitely send up a prayer and best wishes to his family, especially and his friends, for sure. I'm sure this has not been easy for anybody. Who else we got? We got Ram Jam in the house. What's up, Ram Jam? Appreciate you certainly coming through. Hey, Adam, just saw the official trailers for the upcoming movies, including Venom 3, The Last Dance, Harold and the Purple Crayon, and the third Paddington movie titled Paddington in Peru. You
Mm.
know, man, let me tell you, I don't think I did a Venom 3 The Last Dance review, but I did do a brief reaction video over on, I think, maybe Instagram and TikTok, for Venom 3 The Last Dance. And I gotta say, Stuart, I don't know if you had the opportunity to check out the trailer for that, but it was probably one of the best trailers that I personally think the Venom franchise has ever released. I had a really good time with this trailer. It gave me hope that I would actually walk into this movie and walk out really enjoying it. I don't know what it is about this trailer that made me have a different perspective of the Venom movies, but this seems like there's something in here that appeals to me. So I'm really looking forward to this one, man.
You know what's so funny? You're not the first person I've heard that from. Like literally a lot of people that like, and I think even if I'm not mistaken, I think even Double Toasted is kind of like taking that stance of this trailer just looks like they're bringing something new to the franchise.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't see it. But that being said, keep in mind, I still liked Venom 1 and 2, didn't love them, but I think they were just really fun, roller coasters. And because I get that same vibe from this one, I definitely think that, even if it's not like the best written movie, I do think I'm going to leave the theater like satisfied for the most part, getting exactly what I expect. But did you notice the MCU connection in that trailer?
Yeah, and it confused me. That was one of the things that I said in my reaction after I did my reaction, did a brief review again over on TikTok, and I said I'm confused with the idea that they captured the symbiote piece. Is that what the MCU
Oh,
connection that you're
no.
talking about? Are you
Uh,
okay? What's your connection you're talking
Well,
about?
actually, it might have been that too, but I was more referring to the bar that he's at in the very beginning. It's like the same bar from Spider-Man No Way Home
No
at
Way
the
Home.
very end of it, but the bartender looks different because now he has long hair and he's got a beard, whereas like, if you look at the Spider-Man, he was like clean shaven and had like, very neat
Ah.
hair. So I think like what they're implying is that, it's the same bar, but he's now, of course, back in the Venomverse like we see at the very end of or like as we see in Venom. So I think like what they're implying is that like he's just the MCU variant.
Maybe that might explain some things then, because I was always under the impression at the end of No Way Home when we see Venom go back. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so yeah, maybe he goes back to the same bar, but it's just in the Sony universe. Maybe that's why the
Yeah.
guy looks that way.
And
But
even though we see the piece getting left behind and
left
it seems to
behind,
be meant to be in the MCU, they
right?
may just kind of retcon that last scene and say that piece also got sent back. I'm not sure.
That's what it feels like to me because of the fact that they captured this piece. I'm like, wait a minute, but that was left back in the MCU. Like, what are y'all doing, man?
Yeah.
So I don't. That definitely confused me. But I don't know, just something that I like the idea of there being like two type of villains that they both have to face. One very much like government agency, the other sort of alien beings. Once again, from Venom's home planet. So Venom definitely finds himself stuck in an interesting dilemma here, and there is something oddly sad about the idea of these two, Brock and or Eddie and the symbiote being separated for good at the end of this. So I am kind of curious as to where that goes from here. But yeah, I don't know what it was about this trailer, man, but it just felt significantly different. It felt like a lot of fun. It didn't feel like, and granted, I'll have to wait for the movie itself, but it felt like they handled the comedy significantly well in the trailer, at least, and it wasn't too over the top. And there's something about really the symbiote horse at the end that I thought was pretty
That
pretty
was
badass.
awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty badass. So yeah, we'll see how the movie goes though, man. But yeah, definitely had to talk about Venom 3 real quick. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Enrique. Let's see here. Oh, we're talking about the kids' nominations. Also, Power
Oh
Rangers
yeah.
Cosmic Fury has 3 nominations for favorite TV show, actor, and actress for the Kids' Choice Awards. Also,
Uh, here's the thing, man. I know this is gonna piss off the Power Rangers community, but I'm kind of hoping they give it to Percy Jackson. I loved Cosmic Fury, and I'm so glad that it's nominated. But I also see that it's going up against Percy Jackson. I'm like, ooh,
oh
I
yeah,
think that show deserves to win, honestly.
yeah, I don't know who all the nominations are in each category, but yeah, if you're up against Percy Jackson, that's going to be an uphill battle.
Mhm.
TMNT Mutant Mayhem, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Kung Fu Panda 4 were also nominated for favorite animated movie with favorite male and female voices.
Really,
And he
Kung
also
Fu Panda
says
4? I heard that was terrible.
Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, Guardians 3, The Marvels are both nominated for favorite movie, along with Little Mermaid 2023 and Wonka. I actually really enjoyed the Wonka movie.
Still haven't
Um,
gotten a chance to see that one yet.
there are 2 Power Rangers games being made, according to Ram Jam. The A Games 10. What's up, the A Games 10? I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute, so thank you so much for certainly popping in and stopping by today. Datila in the house. Good to see you, Datila. Happy Father's Day, Adam. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Datila. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good weekend. Hopefully, you got the opportunity to check out Clash at the Castle yesterday. I watched the first 2 matches of Clash at the Castle yesterday. I have not finished the pay-per-view overall, but I'll definitely keep you guys posted as to what I thought. But look, guys, wherever you're watching us live from today, we got 6 people watching us over on YouTube, 7 over on Twitter. Feel free to post some likes, post some comments. Let us know that you're here. Feel free to certainly interact with us today. Again, at the end of the day, these are just going to be our A+ opinions, but we also want to know yours as we're discussing each and every topic. Feel free to go ahead and chime in the live chat if you want your voice heard, or like I said, just like, retweet, subscribe to the channel. It definitely all helps. But Stuart, let's go ahead and dive into our first segment of the day, shall we?
Heck yes.
We're going to be getting into honorable mentions for you guys today. For those of you who are not familiar with honorable mentions, pretty much significant stories that we felt that you certainly still deserve to know about, despite them not necessarily making our top 6 to certainly discuss here this week. But always worth checking out. Stuart, we did have ourselves a big announcement this week with The Boys dropping its 4th season today. Also went ahead and announced that season 5 of The Boys will in fact be the last. Uh,
Mhm.
so say farewell. I don't know how season 4, I haven't checked out season 4 yet, so I don't know how it's building towards a huge crescendo going into sort of a last season or not. But I think there are going to be some teary eyes in the room when season 5 finishes and we get ourselves a finale. Although the showrunner, Eric Kripke, he has been very vocal over the past couple of days here, doing a press run and press tour, hinting at the direction for season 5, along with upcoming spin-offs as well. Maybe a Jeffrey Dean Morgan spin-off in the works. I think there's that Boys Mexico that's still very, very early development right now. It's probably going to take a minute, and possibly the continuation of Gen V or Gen 5, however you want to look at it. But plenty more of the boys to certainly come, Stu. But how are you feeling about the idea of the announcement for the final season being season 5?
Smart. I love this show. But because every season is constantly trying to one up themselves, like in terms of like sex and violence, I
Mm.
think there's just going to get to a point where if this show just keeps going, it's going to be like just too much, and it's going to like be impossible to tell a good story when that becomes the primary focus. They haven't gotten there yet, but every season I keep getting worried that this is going to be the season where they put spectacle over story, but like haven't quite gotten there yet, luckily. So season 4 I've been enjoying so far. It's the least subtle in terms of like the metaphors and messaging out of all the other seasons of The Boys, but it almost feels like they're going out of their way not to be subtle. And what I think it is, I think it's just because you look at kind of the griftier side of YouTube, and there is a disturbing amount of people like after seasons 1 through 3 who watch that show and somehow still think that Homelander is meant to be the good guy, like the hero. So it makes me it's so understandable that with this season they are just like spelling it out for you, like on the board, like no, Homelander bad. But my favorite thing about the season so far, like, is the fact that like Homelander is so unhinged now, because now there's just it feels like he's got nothing to lose. That he's only got like one little thing that he kind of has that he wants to not lose, and that of course is his son. But it
Son, yeah.
makes it so like every scene he's in, if someone doesn't die, it's like, oh, that's a relief. You never know what's going
Wow.
to happen with him. He's just so unpredictable. And I mean,
Yeah.
like every scene he's in, I'm on the edge of my seat. And that actor needs to be given a freaking Emmy for his performance, because holy crap, to like put me on edge every time he's on screen, the way he does is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I got to admit, I mean, even before this season, I haven't checked out this season, but even before this season, I've always sort of felt that uneasiness whenever Homelander comes on the screen, because he just feels like he's just unhinged and ready to, like a loose end, ready to just go off the deep end, like just at any moment, sort of thing. So yeah, anytime he's on screen, I'm always concerned that some shit's about to go down. But that's pretty crazy that it feels even more like that for season 4.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you're probably right. And Stuart, I'm pretty sure there's still gonna be people that are like, after this season, people are still gonna think Homelander's the hero, man.
Oh my
It
god,
don't
yeah.
matter what you say for some people, but yeah, some people will certainly take it that way.
Oh my god,
Uh,
yeah.
Marcelino says, yeah, in the beginning, many people thought the boys was making fun of everyone on each side, like South Park makes fun of everybody, unapologetically. Why can't I say that word this morning? Um, let's see here. Did you have any honorable mentions today, Stu? Anything you want to bring up?
Oh yes. So Dotula actually sent me one of those two Power Rangers games that was mentioned
Oh,
in the comic books on Instagram. I saw the trailer for it, and it looks awesome. I can't remember the name of it. If someone in the chat remembers the name, please let us know. But basically, it looks like a direct sequel to the original like Super Nintendo Power Rangers game. So it looks like just a really fun side-scrolling beat 'em up with some
nice.
cool like kind of pixelated cutscenes, and it looks like it's also kind of a direct sequel to Power Rangers Once and Always, because it involves Rita going back in time trying to kill the Power Rangers, as they're younger. So we see Robo Rita again in this, and so now you're playing as the Power Rangers trying to stop.
Hey, no way.
It looks a lot of fun.
Wow. Why haven't I heard about this? Holy crap. I'm gonna have to look this up. See if you can find some images from it. While we're in honorable mention, see if you can find some photos. And while you do that, I will continue to go through some honorable mentions in here. Knives Out 3 has officially begun production. Wake Up Dead Man is the title of Ryan Johnson's trilogy here. Ryan Johnson went ahead and released this brand new image of Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, Detective Benoit Blanc, for Knives Out 3. Looks like he's grown out his hair, looking a little bit older, but yet still as sophisticated and handsome as ever. I cannot wait to see this movie, bro. Like Ryan Johnson, I personally, while I loved Knives Out. I thought Knives Out 2 was even that much better, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he ups things for the third one here. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. And who knows where Ryan Johnson goes next after this one? Star Wars, maybe? No, I don't I don't know. He had been teasing this damn trilogy forever now, but I thought this was a great first look at Benoit Blanc as filming for Knives Out 3 has officially begun.
So I actually have the trailer up on my computer if you want to watch it for
Yeah,
the
go
Power
for
Rangers
it.
games. All
Yeah,
right, let me
you
just
want
do
to
a
share
quick
it?
screen share. Yeah, yeah.
Is this for both trailers? Is this just for one game?
Oh, just for the one game.
Okay. There's a
Um,
trailer of the Power Ranger game that Stuart just mentioned. Okay, that's what Ram Jam said.
yes, here we go.
Oh, I don't think it has audio.
Oh, really? Oh, how do I add audio?
Oh, so close it and then try and reshare it, and then the window should say there should be a tab for audio. Like when you go to reshare it, it should be in a tab somewhere on that screen previous of like no share audio.
Oh, oh, it's weird. Is that the option's there, but it's like grayed out? Huh?
Huh, maybe it doesn't allow it.
Maybe.
That's okay. You can play that.
Oh, here we
Yeah,
go. Got it.
there you go.
I think. All right, let's try this again. Can you hear? Awesome.
Oh wow, that's the art style. Oh, yo, that looks so dope.
Yes. And then there's also multiple
Whoa.
players, so I think you can play as like multiple Rangers at once.
Yeah, this
Or-
feels very Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, like in the game Turtles in Time.
Yeah. Oh, that roller coaster shot. Sick. Oh, that's sick. What?
I love it. Looks like there's some shooting stages as well.
Yo. A racing portion? You gotta be kidding me. Wow. Sign me up, bro. Sign me up. That looks so badass. It almost, dude, this it feels like it's a huge culmination of like so many different genres in here. From like the side scroller, if you will, that definitely brings me back to the Turtles in Time. It just reminds me of the big arcade where you have like the four turtles that everybody could just come in and join and play as. It also has got some of like some race car vibes in here, like a Need for Speed or some shit. I don't know, but it looks pretty badass.
The motorcycle section kind of reminds me of the old Sega Genesis game. You ever play a Hang On for the Sega Genesis?
Oh, okay, I can see that too.
Looks like that, and I love how there's also shooting elements. So, because I love beat 'em ups and everything, but I also love it when they add like variety in between levels, and that's what it looks like they're doing. They have
Yeah,
like kind of other things that you can do, not just the beat 'em up
it's not.
elements.
Yeah, it's just not the side scroller. That's so wow. That's so incredible. I am. What systems does that come out for?
I think it's coming out for everything, like PC,
Okay.
also because it's going to be coming to Steam, but it should hopefully be available on consoles as well.
Man, that's gonna be crazy. People are gonna be talking about that game for a long time. I think when it comes out, I cannot wait for that. I'm glad you brought that up, Stu.
And then since I've started streaming recently, I'm going to try to see if I can play it. I've been
I gotta figure out how to get back into our Twitch account. I thought my passwords I had worked, but I'll try again.
Luckily, the Twitch is already connected to StreamYard, so even though I wasn't able to log into Twitch, I was still able to stream onto Twitch, which was
Oh,
nice.
so streaming. Okay, good.
Yeah, okay, so a quick disclaimer though, just if anyone decides they want to watch me play video games on Twitch, I'm just going to use Twitch as kind of an excuse to like let loose. So like if you don't like profanity or anything like that, you probably won't like my streams. And just if you do watch them, just don't take me seriously. Know that my shit talking is just for fun. I am not actually going to be as angry as I come off like in the games. I'm just doing it for fun.
So you were able to stream through Twitch from StreamYard here? It worked
Yeah,
for
I
you?
ended up streaming some Master Duel, and
Okay, awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
it
Appreciate
was
that,
fun.
man. Last two quick stories here. Looks like we're gonna have ourselves a television series for Man on Fire. The Denzel Washington movie is being turned into a Netflix series, and they have officially brought on board Yahya Abdul Mateen. According to Variety, he's set to lead Netflix's upcoming thriller series Man on Fire. He will also be executive producing the project along with Stephen Caple Jr. But yeah, The Man on Fire is based off of the first two novels by A.J. Quinnell, and that wind up having an adaptation by played by Denzel Washington back in 2004. So it says the log line for Netflix's adaptation reads: once a high functioning and skilled special forces mercenary known for surviving even the most desolate of situations, Creasy is now plagued with intense PTSD. Determined to overcome his personal demons, he sets out on a path of redemption. But before he can adjust his new life, he finds himself back in the fire, fighting harder than ever. So it looks like Abdul Mateen is going to be taking over the Denzel Washington role and playing the character Creasy in here. So yeah, we have a Netflix series coming from that, born out of that film. And then we might have some movement for another Game of Thrones spinoff series. This one, I believe, is 10,000 Ships. Now, I believe this is one that might have gotten pushed back to the back burner for quite some time, but it looks like it might have just been revitalized a little bit. According to George R. Martin in a recent blog post, he congratulated writer Ebony Booth for winning the 2024 Pulitzer Prize. Martin also revealed that Booth has been working on a new pilot for 10,000 Ships, a series set to follow the Dornish warrior queen, Nymeria, and Roynar, I believe is what the name is. It says, as of now, not a lot is known about 10,000 Ships outside the fact that it will focus on those two characters, a people from an eastern continent of Essos in Martin's novels. The group of people were only mentioned a handful of times in Game of Thrones. So yeah, this marks the first major update on 10,000 Ships. 2 years ago, the series was announced, but they haven't had sort of any movement on it. But so yeah, it looks like they are working on a brand new pilot. We'll see if it actually gets picked up and greenlit. But as of right now, 10,000 Ships in very much early development here. I think we have I think our next one for sure is the Hedge Knight or the Knight of Seven Kingdoms for Game of Thrones. That's definitely been greenlit and I believe set to go into production here relatively soon. So we do have at least another outside of House of the Dragon, another um spin-off series to certainly look forward to. So we'll see we'll see what else we wind up getting, man. But Game of Thrones is not slowing down by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't House of Dragon debut? Does that debut
Yeah,
tonight,
today.
right? Today,
Yeah,
right?
tonight at 9.
Man, The Boys and Game of Thrones, man, people are we're just getting spoiled, man, getting spoiled.
It,
I'm excited.
Yeah, I just recently did a full catch up on House of the Dragon, because for some
I
reason, I
might need
don't
to,
know
yeah.
why, like I just couldn't remember like exactly, like I remembered the important stuff, but there were so many details that were like just foggy in my brain about House of Dragon. So I wanted to do a full rewatch before going into season 2. I'm excited because now I got it fresh in my mind and I'm just ready to pick up right where I left off with season 1.
Me and the girlfriend probably should have done that, honestly. I wouldn't mind asking my girlfriend, like, hey, babe, you want to do a quick rewatch? But by that time, we're definitely going to go ahead and miss the actual premiere of season 2. But I have really enjoyed the marketing and the promotion for season 2. I think it's been super clever with the dual trailers, having people pick their sides. I don't know if people saw some of the images from out of New York City, but they were decorating buildings and bridges, I believe, with like these huge Game of
Yeah,
Thrones banners and stuff. They really went all out for the marketing for this season, so I cannot wait.
they must have had to pay a lot of money to convince the city to let them do that.
Yeah, they must have, man. They must have. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to the premiere of House of the Dragon season 2 tonight. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. I got to remember when the Rings of Power season 2 winds up dropping. I'm hoping it's a little bit later this year. Something tells me it's August, but I could be wrong. Because I remember last time when they did debut, they went opposite House of the Dragon. Like they both premiered at around the same time, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought that was a terrible idea.
Mhm.
But because it's just talk about just comparisons, right? So I do hope that they at least separated themselves with some time between House of the Dragon and Rings of Power.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing currently with Superman and Fantastic Four. I really hope they eventually come to their senses and one of them changes the month that it comes out.
Yeah, because they're right. They're like 2 months separate from each other, right?
They're
I
the
do.
same month
I
currently.
mean, 2 weeks. I think
A
it's only
week,
2
yeah.
weeks, right? Yeah, I think it's only 2 weeks. But yeah, at least a month would be great because one, I know they're probably gonna both want IMAX screens,
Mhm.
and whoever comes out first, I think, is the loser of that in the sense of, the second movie is, I think, gonna have the IMAX screen for longer. But maybe if we're lucky, maybe they'll just IMAX screens will just balance out like the times throughout the day to be able to have both of them on IMAX screens. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think the idea of them coming out separate, or at least like one at the very beginning of the month and one at the far like tail end of the month. Maybe add like 3 week break in between or something like that. But 2 weeks it just feels way too close for a Superman and Fantastic Four for sure.
Agreed.
But all right, guys, it is time for our main topics. Let's go ahead and get into this. Stuart, you ready, man?
Always.
And also remember, guys, if you want to go ahead and support the channel, you certainly can through super chats down below. We'll go ahead and stop what we're doing. We'll bring up your comment first, and we'll certainly address you and give you certainly the floor to voice your opinion in our super chats. We're not sponsored by anybody, so the only way that we grow as a channel is certainly through you guys. So any support will certainly be helpful in that regards when it comes to super chats or super stickers. But if you can't help us out monetarily, hitting that like button, sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel, trust me when I say all of that definitely does go a long way. But Stu, let's go ahead and kick this off with our first topic of the day. We're really going to get into our animation bag here today. I was actually surprised as to how much animation news that we wind up getting this week, but it should certainly be a fun one as we'll dive into the DCU first, as after the debut of Jolo Maraduena as a Blue Beetle. For those of us who really enjoyed that film, we've been asking when's the next time we were going to see Jolo on the big screen as this character. We do know that despite James Gunn creating his own DCU, and I believe he even mentioned the idea that while that movie won't necessarily exist in his DCU, those characters and those actors that played those roles certainly still will. And so it's been kind of up in the air as to exactly how we would see our Blue Beetle return once again. And it seems as though it's going to be in animated form, Stuart. I found this one actually kind of interesting that we're going from a live action version of Blue Beetle to presenting him once again in animation. So let's go ahead and dive into this article as this one comes to us from deadline.com. Who are in fact reporting this news. Let's see here. This says Blue Beetle animated series in the works as DC plots the next chapter for the superhero franchise. How do you feel about the idea of that, Stu? Were you hoping for another live action or what?
I think this might actually be a smart move
Yeah,
because, for one, like James Gunn said, the first movie isn't going to be canon to the new universe. So I'm not saying that they need to make this a full origin story, but they could definitely use this as an excuse to give us like flashbacks of him getting his power, and
point.
not have it confuse like other people as to why does it look different here than it did with what we saw in the movie. Here, it's like a good way to retell the origin story, and it's an easy way to show audiences that like, oh yeah, this isn't the same Blue Beetle from the movie. Yeah, I think it's a smart move.
Let's go ahead and dive into this news. So this is an exclusive from Deadline. This is Warner Brothers Animation and DC Studios are looking to continue telling Blue Beetle stories via an animated series currently in development. Sources close to production tell Deadline. We've got Miguel Puga. Has been working on the project since early this year and will serve as the project's showrunner and director with Christian Martinez, who also wrote Women of the Movement and Good Trouble as a set as a writer. The directors from the film and screenwriter of the 2023 film, respectively, will be executive producers alongside here as well. Um, and it looks as though Galen Vaseman, who was an executive producer on the film, will oversee the animated TV series for DC Studios. So while the directors and the writers aren't necessarily attached on board as directors and writers, they will in fact serve some role as an executive producer to help helm this series. DC Studios and Warner Brothers Animation declined to comment for the story. It says many things are still in flux, including contracts for any main cast. However, multiple have been approached, and DC has received a positive response regarding returns. So they're not quite ready to say who's going to be returning from the film to play their respective characters in animation, but it does sound like there's some positive movement there. Deadline understands the animated series will build on the movie developed under DC Studios' previous regime, but will divert from telling the same story. Instead, the show will create its own story, which in success could potentially lead to a return to the big screen for the giant blue bug portrayed by Jolo Maraduena. Um, so yeah, it says, yeah, it looks like that's pretty much it from the article itself. So I do find this interesting in the sense that it could potentially lead to the return to the big screen, but will divert from telling the same story here. So it does make me wonder, Stu, kind of like what you were what you were mentioning, the idea of how are they going to tell this story per se? Like, will it be flashbacks in the sense of like, this is kind of how he became a Blue Beetle, and now you're telling sort of a brand new story and building off of what came before, or is this animated series gonna try and really build itself up as like a brand new origin story for the character? I personally liked your concept, Stuart, of maybe doing a brand new story in here, or at least a new adventure, but also having flashbacks from moments in the film. But I do wonder also if maybe they'll make like their own, not necessarily, I don't want to say necessarily retcon, but might take their own liberties and maybe switching some aspects of what happened in the film to kind of fit their DCU story kind of going forward. I really do hope that they're able to get some of the main pieces back in here for their characters. You got to get Jolo on board. I think you got to have George Lopez in here in some capacity or another. And I think the other important piece is probably going to be the sister. I would love if they can at least get those three characters back. Maybe even his love interest that we see in that film. But maybe, if they have to have some flexibility on bringing some other people back or not, who certainly knows. But I do think those are probably like the three mainstays that if you're DC Studios, you definitely want to try and nail down. But I'm looking forward to this regardless. I hope that it's successful enough to where we do get ourselves another big screen movie. It is one of those things too where I wonder if like financially they are, I don't want to say being cautious, but they have so many other projects currently in the works. I don't know what the special effects budget was certainly like for Blue Beetle, but it feels like it was probably relatively heavy. So I do wonder if this is another way for them to be able to get away with doing really big outer space or, alien technology sort of scenes that we've seen in the movie for a lower budget to help them out financially. And then maybe whatever they make from this series, that can certainly go to putting together another live action movie. But regardless, I think this is a pretty fun and interesting move, honestly. For me personally, I really would have liked to have had a live action sequel or another live action movie. But if you are really trying to emphasize the idea that the movie that you saw really is not connected to the bigger world here, I would be fascinated to kind of see how they make this happen. And I think it's probably a good sort of audible to certainly call if you want to keep the character around but establish him in your new DCU. So I think there's a lot of potential here, man. I do think, again, it's important that we land down some of these voice actors that play the actual characters. But aside from that, interesting choice, but I think a smart one overall, Stuart.
Yeah. Definitely agree. Also, I gotta say, sometimes I get distracted by the ads on the article because I just
Oh,
saw
yeah.
in the corner a dude sniffing another dude's armpit. I'm like, what am I? What? Oh, deodorant ad. Okay, got it. But yeah, no, I do think yeah, animated series is a good way to go, and I think that because we know that there's a Titans movie currently in development, so I think what they're trying to do is give us like something kind of like to hold us over until we get to see him again, and I believe his debut will be in the Titans when we see him again.
Oh, for like live action wise, you think that's where he'll pop up?
Oh yeah. I can't remember if he's yeah, there were well, actually I don't even know if Jeff Johns was still like writing Teen Titans when he was in the comic books, but there was a brief period of time when they were like trying to rebuild the team after Infinite Crisis, where they had like several different members that would come in and out, and he was one of them that was like part of the team, but he didn't stick around for too long if I remember correctly. But new universe in the cinematic movie universe, I think they could totally make him a full-time member.
Yeah, that would be pretty fascinating if they decide to kind of go that route. This would be a great. I don't know the order in which this will certainly be released. I mean, if anything, I think one of the things from this article too that surprises me is just how long this has been in development. And how we're just now learning about it 6 months in. They talk about the idea that this has kind of been in production since the beginning, early aspect of this year, and now it's the middle of June. So the fact that they've managed to kind of sit on this information for as long as they have, I think, is pretty impressive in here. There's a part of me that 6 months in, when you're developing this type of stuff, one, I am kind of curious if like the animation is even put together at this point. But um, to I guess for the sources in here to not know who's involved, I think is pretty interesting. Also, despite them saying like there's a lot of positive talk, reaction back there from some of the cast members about possibly returning, I would think that's something that you would want to land down first before you start, even like putting this thing into production. But I am kind of curious as to exactly how far along this is. But this is something they clearly have been thinking about for quite some time.
Yeah, I think what it is that they know exactly what characters they want to use. They just haven't locked down which actors want to come back to reprise those roles. And I think specifically George Lopez, because he'd probably be the most expensive one to get back.
Yeah, you're
Um,
probably right.
so I think that's like why they didn't want to make any direct announcements. Like I think they're all like really sure that Jolo will be coming back for it, but they don't want to like say it only for like later him to be like, I'm actually not interested.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm Jolo though, I'm definitely staying attached to the Blue Beetle character for as long as I can.
Oh yeah,
If James Gunn has kind of promised people that do the animated series for their stuff coming back to reprise their role and play those characters again, if I'm Jolo and I'm attached to the DCU in any way, shape, or form, knowing that James Gunn is helming the ship, yeah, man, I'm definitely coming back just for the opportunity to eventually be seen once again in live action for sure.
definitely. Yeah, that wasn't me predicting that he would do that. That's just me thinking
Oh
like
yeah,
as
it's
a
just
producer,
yeah.
you're thinking worst case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. Marcelino says, hopefully this, with this being animated, they could connect it to Booster Gold and introduce Ted Cord, and say that's Jason Sudeikis. Yeah, I mean, if anything, if there is anything I'm really fascinated in, it's definitely the Ted Cord Blue Beetle really getting teased at the end of season two. I mean, at the end of the movie itself being still alive, and kind of wondering how they're gonna build off of that for an upcoming sequel. So definitely potential there in regards to that. And when we do, since we do have ourselves a Booster Gold series coming out also, um, from James Gunn's DCU, the connective possibilities could certainly be there, Marcelino. So you might be onto something there.
Definitely.
But let us know your guys' thoughts. Blue Beetle, not necessarily coming back in live action form yet, but getting himself an animated series. Did he ever have his own animated series already, Stuart, outside of like Young Justice?
Nope. Yeah, the only times he's appeared that I can think of is Young Justice and Brave and the Bold.
I am, if anything, I'm more fascinated to see what this animation style is certainly going to look like.
Mhm.
So I am really eager for this. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Blue Beetle animated series, good choice, bad choice to reintroduce him to the DCU. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
Something I kind of hope they don't do. I hope they don't go the what if route and then just make it like, because what if is like animated in a way where they want it to look like it could be live action, and I think that's fine. But I do like when we saw the preview of Creature Commandos that it looks like no, they're not going that route. It's animated. They're taking advantage of the fact that it's animated because they're showing us things that you couldn't do in live action. I hope they go that route with Blue Beetle, especially with his costume, because that's one of the more unique kind of things about the costumes, the way it can like kind of morph and everything. So I hope they have a lot of fun with that aspect of it.
Yeah, I hope they do too. I really do. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that story, we will move on to our next topic. As this past week, I believe it's already wrapped up, if I'm not mistaken, but we had the Anarchy Festival of Animation Film Festival this week for 2024. I don't know exactly where it was being hosted at, but we are going to be talking about the Anarchy Animated Film Festival here briefly from our next two topics. As the first one is going to be Creature Commandos. This was really the opportunity at Anarchy Film Festival this week to get a first glimpse not only at Creature Commandos but also the upcoming Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim film also. And so we're going to dive into both of these stories real quick, as new details have definitely emerged in the animation side of things. And so I think this is maybe like the first or second year in a row that I've heard of the Anarchy Animated Film Festival, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that name correctly. But I think it's something that if we are big animated fans, whether it be television series or movies, something that we might have to be paying attention to on a yearly basis, kind of going forward. But the first thing that we will talk about will in fact be Creature Commandos, as James Gunn has given us further details and really shares his vision on what we can expect from Creature Commandos. And with this project getting set to go ahead and drop this year, and really being sort of like the first appetizer course, if you will, for the greater DCU that we're about to get, there's a lot of implications, I think, from Creature Commandos to go ahead and kick off this DCU. So let's go ahead and check this out. This comes to us from Hollywood Reporter. James Gunn shares vision for his first DCU projects, Creature Commandos, at Anarchy. Let's see here what this article is saying, Stuart. So it says James Gunn is sharing more insight into his vision for Creature Commandos, his first project to debut since he and Peter Safran took the reins as heads of DCU. Gunn introduced the presentation for the animated series via a video message on Friday, explaining that he was unable to attend due to being in Atlanta to shoot his forthcoming live action feature, Superman. Hailing from DC and Warner Brothers Animation, Creature Commando centers on a ragtag group of monsters led by Amanda Waller, and it's set to debut on Max in December. So it's going to be a nice little holiday treat, if you will. But this is what James Gunn told the crowd. He says, whoops. He says, it's a cornerstone of the legacy we've been entrusted to carry at DC Studios and plays an integral role in the vision for our future storytelling. Since taking the reins, our true north has been to bring DC film, TV, animation, and gaming into alignment under a single banner and bring a sense of unity and consistency into the DCU as a whole. This frees us to create a range of products that are diverse and compelling and deliver great standalone entertainment experiences on every medium, while also being a part of a larger story that we're telling within our unified DCU. He says what this means in practical terms is that our characters can move in and out of animation or jump into a game or onto the big screen, but they will remain consistent throughout. Same character, same history, same actor. He points out that Viola Davis reprises the role of Waller after previously playing her character in Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. He says the new series picks up directly after our Peacemaker season 1 finale, which leaves Waller with her hands tied operationally, meaning that she's no longer able to get away with putting human lives on the line to carry out her clandestine, morally questionable missions. Instead, she recruits a ragtag band of misfits, not unlike the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. He also noted that what makes this show's leads different is that they are actual literal monsters, and I can't wait for you to meet them. Creating the series has been one of my absolute joys in life. And then they also went ahead and had an in-person panel for Creature Commandos that included footage and character artwork, which I don't believe has been revealed, but I might have to Google that and see if there's been any sort of movement or reveals like pictures and things like that that have come out from the project. But Stu, let me get your first thoughts on this. You hear how he's breaking down Creature Commandos, the idea of this picking up literally after Peacemaker season 1. Waller has her hands tied. She can't use humans anymore to go on these missions, so she picks monsters. What's your excitement level for this after hearing that? And really the idea of James Gunn talking about how much he's really enjoyed bringing this one to life. Is there anything you're looking forward to in this one?
Well, the first thought is okay. So, kind of like what we already knew from what he's been saying about Peacemaker season 2. It is weird that we're left to assume that the story of Peacemaker season 1 is in continuity, but like it's still not canon somehow. So that's always that's going to be bizarre to see how they try to explain later on. But I do love that. Yeah, we got Viola Davis coming, and that she is now she no longer has, it seems, the resources that she's been so used to relying on. So it'll be interesting seeing her version of Waller actually as an underdog. I definitely am looking forward to seeing this, creative group of characters together, and seeing how Rick Flag Sr. is going to be kind of the one trying to seemingly keep them all under control, as he's like kind of the only like actual I don't know, the only one who seems to be working for Amanda Waller's like willingly, kind of like his son. So yeah, I think everything I'm seeing about this so far, it has me intrigued, and of course it being animated, and that's such an interesting way to kick off a universe with an animated series rather than a movie or a live action series like I feel like any other studio would do. I think it's like a sign, early on that, hey, we're, while we are a cinematic universe that you've seen before, like you've seen cinematic universes before, at least we're trying to, go about it in a slightly different direction than you've seen in the past.
Yeah, I agree, and I do think too. I think animation is just growing more and more. I think it's really establishing itself as like we can really tell some incredible stories through animation. It's not all for kids. It can definitely be not only family friendly but very much adult themed at times too. That just because it's animation doesn't mean that we're not taking these stories or these characters like super serious. And so anytime something like Amazon or Netflix announces some level of like animated series, whether that be for like Terminator or any of these other kind of franchises, there is a level of like excitement that I can kind of see building from the core audience or people that are part of this, a part of the fandom. Because I do think that we probably want to see a little bit more animation from some of these franchises. And so the fact that they're getting into their bag like this, I like you said, is pretty interesting, especially with this being sort of like the first, again, just an appetizer course to kind of let us know what the DCU setting is going to be like. So interesting choice, but I think a smart one at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
As for me, when I think of this, you bring up an interesting point of Rick Flag Sr. being a part of this. I think the time period in which this is set is interesting because clearly at this point, Rick Flag's son is dead. And so how Waller convinces him to work for her despite his son working for her and dying kind of under her watch. I do wonder if there's some animosity still there, if he's kind of doing this reluctantly to even help lead this ragtag group. So I do find the timing of all this pretty interesting that hey, the son's not here, let's get the dad in, you know what I mean?
Waller is very manipulative, and I have no doubt it'll be somewhere along the lines of, "Oh, your son betrayed me and killed him. He went
Mm.
rogue," or or sorry, not your son. Sorry, Peacemaker went rogue and betrayed me and then killed your son. It'll be something like that, and I think so. I think mostly it'll go that direction because Rick Flag Senior, by the same actor, is also supposed to be in Peacemaker season 2.
Ah.
So I do think Waller being manipulative, she's going to convince him that, it was Peacemaker that got his son killed. And yeah, that's how she's going to get him to work for her. Even though when you watch the Suicide Squad, that's not quite the case.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the connection to Peacemaker too, because already it feels like we're already putting the pieces together as to how Peacemaker season or Suicide Squad links to Peacemaker, Peacemaker leads to Creature Commandos, Creature Commandos possibly leading into Peacemaker season 2. So it's kind of all coming together for James Gunn. But so I do find that aspect interesting, and that for me, I'm ready to see a trailer. Like I'm ready to see a first look image. I want to see some of these characters in action. I've listened to Alan Tudyk talk about Mr. Phosphorus or Dr. Phosphorus for quite some time now. I'm really eager to kind of see the rest of these characters kind of brought to animated form and see what this story is really going to look like. The fact that we're getting it this year, I think, is a smart move on their part. I don't know exactly when is season 2 of Peacemaker supposed to drop.
I want to say like late 2025. I know that they're currently filming it, but James Gunn is only directing a couple of episodes because, of course, he's still, in the middle of
In
directing
the middle of it.
Superman.
That's right. And so there is a part of me that wonders when Peacemaker season 2 is going to drop, and even when the Waller series is going to drop. Also, considering the fact that we've got Superman set to go ahead and debut in July. So there's a part of me that thinks we get Creature Commandos this December, maybe Peacemaker season 2 before Superman, and maybe Waller after Superman. But I did see an interesting comment somebody left. On social media recently about the idea that they they're kind of tired of the Waller character, that there's no like redeeming qualities about this character for them to even enjoy, and that anytime Waller is in a project, they're just not going to watch it anymore
Damn.
because they can't connect with her, sort of thing.
I don't think you're
And
supposed to.
and that's why I said, I'm like, I don't think she's meant to have any redeeming qualities. Like, and I also say, can you blame the DCU and James Gunn for wanting to bring Waller back when she's literally acted by one of the greatest actors that we currently have in this generation, in Viola Davis? Like, who wouldn't want to keep Viola Davis around, keep her happy, and just tell some really compelling and interesting stories about Amanda Waller? So I told her, I was like, look, bro, you're probably going to be waiting around for quite some time then, if that's the case, because she's definitely going to be playing a significant role. And so, yeah, I don't think we're supposed to have any redeeming qualities or find anything redeemable about her. I said, that's what the other characters around her are supposed to be for. So I just think it's a interesting understanding of who the character is. But I'm excited for this, man. I truly am. I think James Gunn is certainly cooking. I can understand maybe the frustrations that some people have. Like all the recent announcements seem to be about Peacemaker or Suicide Squad or Creature Commandos with like this story being kind of linked together. And I think people are really like wanting to get more news about the rest of the DCU sort of chapter one. Whether that be Lanterns or Supergirl stuff being in development, maybe Swamp Thing, right? I think some people are ready for those other pieces that aren't always connected to Amanda Waller and Peacemaker kind of being connected. So I can understand the hunger for wanting to see other news, but for me at least, I'm really pumped about Creature Commandos. I can't wait to see a first look and what that animation looks like specifically.
Yeah, there is something that they could do though with Amanda Waller if they ever do like a time jump or something. There was a did you ever watch Justice League Unlimited?
Briefly, yeah. I don't know if it was like part of my every day, every week thing, but yeah, every once in a while.
They had an episode called Epilogue, and it was originally meant to be the ending of not just the Justice League, but also just the DC animated universe as a whole, because it took place during the Batman Beyond timeline. But
Oh,
it had Amanda Waller as kind of like one of the centerpieces of the story, and I love like she's a totally different person as an old lady, as she's had time to like reflect on her life and really contemplate all the terrible things she's done. And there's also like this implication that she's like a born again Christian type of character. And what I love about it is that they say that like she mentions like the reason she's changed her ways, like at the end, the reason she's had like this whole new outlook on whole new outlook on life is because of Batman. And I thought it was like just a
mm.
really really sweet kind of way to kind of close her story, and kind of showing that they're like, I don't want to say they redeemed her, right? But that there's clearly people can change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally understand that for sure. I will one. What's up, I will one? Good to see you in here, man. He says unexpected Blue Beetle animated series for sure. Yeah, totally unexpected. I was not expecting them to make that announcement, and even more unexpected that it's already been in development since the beginning of the year. Like, wow, they really have this plan for this character, and they want to go ahead and try and execute. So again, I was kind of hoping for an actual live action sequel, but again, I guess when you're trying to establish him in your DCU, maybe in a way to also kind of save some money, but also really pick up on the times. Like we just talked about, Stuart, right? The idea of like animated series, I think, are really catching sort of people's eyes. I don't know if it was like Invincible that kind of started this idea. Like you can tell some really compelling and incredible stories with an adult theme sort of thing in that superhero realm, and maybe people are seeing the excitement that something like Invincible had initially got, and now everybody kind of wants to get on board with it. So yeah, I'm all for it though.
Same.
Marcelino says something I heard why people are tired of Amanda Waller is that she's getting more focus over the bigger DC characters such as Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Justice League, Dark, New Gods, Darkseid, and much more. And I do think there's a reason behind that, because we are reestablishing the DCU, right? Like we are kind of starting from the ground up, and I do think the Amanda Waller character as a whole is still a very important character, right? Like it may not be like we just don't have anything to show for Wonder Woman or Aquaman or these characters yet as James Gunn kind of builds it. But I do think there's something interesting about Amanda Waller in the sense that she's very much an orchestrator, kind of like behind the scenes, putting things into motion that tend to cause bigger ramifications in the universe that then the superheroes have to kind of come in and get involved with, And so, again, I do think when you have somebody like Viola Davis that can just make anything be spectacular when she touches it, having her attached to Amanda Waller too, I think is another emphasis of making sure that you're making Amanda Waller just as big of a threat and as big of a character, at least in the DCU, as some of these other ones like Wonder Woman and Aquaman. And as we get to further developing chapter one, I'm sure that's probably going to change, but it would not surprise me, Stu, if Amanda Waller is really significant for this reason of helping establishing much bigger things and threats that are certainly to come down the line. So when we dive into chapter one, maybe she kind of falls a little bit more back to the back burner, and a lot of these characters, superheroes and stuff, kind of step up and then kind of get that focus. That's kind of the direction I feel like they're going in here. But what do you think about that?
No, I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're currently working on the characters they know are going to be transferring over to this new DC universe, and Amanda Waller is definitely one of them. So it makes sense that they're focusing on that side of the DC universe in the beginning, as they're trying to reestablish all the new characters, or not new characters, but the new actors, the new versions of these characters that we're going to be getting introduced to later on.
Yeah, I agree. And Marcelino says people hope that once Gods and Monsters saga ends, they'll move away from Amanda Waller and focus on important characters. And that's exactly what I just said. In
Yeah.
that sense too, is that I do think that she's a foundational piece, especially portrayed by an extremely powerful actor. You have somebody in Peacemaker played by John Cena that had a huge season one, and has now found himself sort of as a main piece as well. I think you use those as your establishing characters to then build upon your chapter one movies, and then as chapter one continues on, then your heroes will certainly take over. So I think that's pretty much where we're getting. Jordan, what's up, Jordan? How's it going, everyone? Good to see you, man. Appreciate you certainly coming through today. We always good seeing you around here, Jordan. But yeah, also happy Father's Day to any fathers that are certainly watching us here today, also. But any final thoughts on the Creature Commando stuff, Stuart? Or are you just pumped for December to get here?
I'm pumped for December to get here. I'm glad that we get our little, like as you put it, our little appetizer to the DC universe this year.
Yeah, I'm ready to dive in and see what this world is that James Gunn is certainly creating for us. And I think too, I am fascinated to kind of see just how he's going to navigate things like Peacemaker season 1 not fully being a part of the DCU. Like I'm kind of curious as to what he's going to cherry pick that might kind of carry over also. So we'll see how the execution goes for that. But sticking in the animation front, we are going to move from the DCU to more film franchises here. As look, Lord of the Rings franchise is far from dead, ladies and gentlemen. If you thought after The Hobbit we were going to say farewell to any kind of age coming out of the Tolkien verse, you certainly would be wrong, because not only do we get the Rings of Power season 1, but we're also getting ready for Rings of Power season 2 this year, which I definitely do think deserves a rewatch for me before I dive into that world again. But we also have ourselves a live action Lord of the Rings movie certainly set to go into production here, titled The Hunt for Gollum, as Andy Serkis returns not only to play Gollum, but also to go ahead and direct the film, with Peter Jackson coming back on board to executive produce. So Warner Brothers already has that in on the back burner ready to go. But we also have an animated film that we have been talking about from time to time around here, an animated film that is definitely getting some high praise already, and connecting with the Anarchy Animated Film Festival this week. We also got the opportunity to check out the animated film in The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. We're getting an opportunity to get some first look images out of here and new details as well. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart, because for me at least, as somebody who's a big Lord of the Rings fan, I'm always eager to kind of dive into this world, especially the world of that we haven't necessarily seen fully fleshed out in the books itself. A lot of the stuff that we're going to be getting, whether that be the Hunt for Gollum, the War of the Rohirrim, really taken out of like the appendices of these novels by Tolkien, along with just like little brief maybe paragraphs or pages that kind of highlight them, and then bigger stories kind of being born out of that. That is something super fascinating to me. So we're going to dive into two aspects here, two articles for the War of the Rohirrim. We're also going to give you guys a glimpse into some of the first look images that we wind up having. But this one is from variety.com. It says the War of Rohirrim debuts a 20 minutes of epic footage at Anarchy, introducing a headstrong princess, Hera of Rohan. And for those of you who watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy by Peter Jackson, The Two Towers really does focus on the land of Rohan. So let's see here. It says it received thunderous applause during a packed presentation on Tuesday. Director Kenji Kamiyama said he was inspired by not just Tolkien's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings books, but the films by Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh, who were confirmed as executive producers on the movie during the session as well. So Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh from the trilogy definitely had a hand in this as well. It says the new story is set 200 years before Bilbo Baggin comes into contact with the Rings of Power, and centers on the House of Helm Hammerhand, the King of Rohan, with a focus on his daughter, the strong-willed princess Hera. In a clip, a dispute erupts during a council meeting, leaving Wolf, a ruthless Dunlending lord seeking vengeance. Miranda Otto reprises her Lord of the Rings role as Eowyn. I can never pronounce her damn name. This time as the movie's narrator. So that's cool. I'm glad that they wind up bringing her back. There is such a story, there is such a power to the story, says Kamiyama, who's the director, whose credit includes the TV series Blade Runner, Black Lotus, and Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. He was joined by a highly anticipated session by producers as well. Um, they emphasized that the stylish anime look, the filmmakers didn't set out to make an animated Peter Jackson movie. Rather, they wanted to make a Kamiyama movie. He says the fans are going to go nuts for this, is what Andy Serkis said, who will reprise his role as Gollum in The Hunt for Gollum. During the session, he also teased his performance. Okay, so it's set to go ahead and open in theaters December 13th and internationally beginning December 11th. So big time animation coming in the month of December. First, Stuart, the one thing that comes to mind here is Miranda Otto reprising her role from Lord of the Rings as she played Eowyn, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was the daughter of the king in the Two Towers, and she's also the one that was on the front line in the battle at the end of Return of the King as well. And I find it fascinating that she's the one that's narrating this. To me, it makes sense, especially when you talk about like the title of this article states it is going to focus on the headstrong Princess Hera of Rohan. So I do think, especially with a character like Eowyn, who seemingly wanted more out of her life than what she was certainly doing and felt that she could benefit more, especially certainly on the battlefield. Like if there's any character that might have drawn inspiration from Princess Hera of Rohan at some point in time, it feels like it would have been Eowyn. So it feels very proper that she's the one narrating this series. I think it
Yeah,
is.
I would definitely agree. Unlike the Hunt for Gollum, this is actually a project that I see a lot of potential in, and I'm actually
Yeah.
really excited about this one. Going the route of animation, I think, is a brilliant idea for the Lord of the Rings. Something I've been excited about ever since it's been announced. And yeah, I like that they're keeping continuity, kind of like James Gunn in his Creature Commandos and DC Universe. The fact that we have the same actors reprising the roles in animation form as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely works out extremely well that way. And then we also want to go ahead and connect this other article from Entertainment Weekly that gave us a little bit more insight and additional images as well for a first look. This is from Entertainment Tonight or Entertainment Weekly. Meet the rebellious heroine and fascinating villain of Lord of the Rings, the anime prequel. It says, the new anime tells the story of Helm Hammerhand, the ancient king of Rohan, after whom the fortress of Helm's Deep is named. So I do wonder, even in the movie itself, Stuart, they talked about the idea of a battle taking place at Helm's Deep prior to the battle that happened in the Two Towers. So I do wonder if this is a culmination of that story that's going to be told here. It says, of course, the War of the Rohirrim will look very different from the Lord of the Rings film released in 1978. This is anime. And you have, it says, producer Philippa Boyens, who, along with Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh, co-wrote the screenplays for the live-action Lord of the Rings film, immediately saw the potential of putting this story in that format. They said, when they suggested anime, that's when my brain really started firing, is what Boyan said. Immediately, the idea of telling the story came to me. They had a number of different ones that they were going to pitch, but I was quite bossy, and I was like, no, I know exactly what this needs. She explains, I immediately felt that it would work for anime because it's so character based and also contained within its own world. It speaks to certain things that work really well with Japanese storytelling. And they go ahead and actually give us a brand new image for us to look at to get a sense of what the animation is going to look like. It says the story of Helm Hammerhand is told briefly in Tolkien's appendices for The Lord of the Rings, and the epic details excited Kamiyama, the director, to take on the challenge of adapting it to a feature-length film. He says, this is a story of the most powerful king in Rohan's history, someone who defeated his enemies with his bare fists. Why did his lineage have to end with him? I think there is a lesson in hubris there, and also for a need for responsibility and awareness in their power. We live in an age where all over the world we face a reality of war again. What then is power? What is the responsibility of those who possess it? It is something they need to think about by thinking together with those who don't. This is in particular, they wanted to give a character her own name. Um, Oh, it says Boyens and screenwriter Phoebe Gittins expanded on Tolkien's original story. In particular, they wanted to give a certain character her own name. In the appendices, where the story is drawn from, we get these quite interesting drawn male characters. And then we get this young female character who is never named. And that was very interesting to me. We know Helm has a daughter, and we know that she was central in the conflict that happened, but myself and especially the screenwriter were drawn to her. We could feel the weight of being that unnamed daughter, which immediately piqued our interest. Who is she? How did she live? In the War of the Rohirrim, Helm's daughter is named Hera, and she's voiced by Gaia Wise. The actress says her character bears a stronger resemblance to the heroines of Hayao Miyazaki films than the classic Lord of the Rings heroine like Arwen and Eowyn. She would lay down her life for her people, is what Gaia Weiss says. Comparing her to Arwen and Eowyn, they're already full-formed women. What I love about Hera is that she's fierce, she's complex, and she's also rebellious. And then it also give us another image here to go off of. It says Hera might have her match, though, in the film's antagonist, Wolf, who's voiced by Luke Pasqualino, um, is leading the armies of Dunlendings against Helm's kingdom. We have an exceptionally great antagonist to this story. He's one of my favorite antagonists to have written across all the films that I've worked on. Wolf's strength as a character, according to Bowens, is precisely the fact that he's not an evil wizard or a dark lord like more famous villains of Lord of the Rings. He's just human, and in some ways that makes him even more dangerous. Ain't that the truth, Stuart? He speaks so directly to a lot of the crises that we're facing today. He's a really fascinating character and exciting too. You don't know what he's going to do, and some of the choices he makes are breathtaking in a good way. So that's our little preview here as set to go ahead and hit theaters December 13th. And I think we also have another shot. I will one says this the art style looks incredible. Yeah, it really does. Especially this one, seeing like the council and the king's court and stuff like that. I'm really eager to see like what the movement, the pacing of this animation is certainly going to look like, especially when it comes to the action and just how clean it is. But first impressions, I'm like, wow, they really went all in for the animation for this film, Stuart. But you get to look at some of these first impressions. You hear about some of the characters that they're drawing upon, giving the character from the appendices, Hera, a name. Along with the villain Wolf in here as a human antagonist. What are some of your thoughts on how they're tackling this one?
Uh, I just got to give it to the art real quick before I even tackle the story, because the art looks very much like you could definitely like they even say it like very much feels inspired by Miyazaki in all the right ways, and then the detail not just for the character models but for the backgrounds look absolutely incredible. Like, could we go back to the villain real quick?
The villain? Yeah, let me pull him up real quick.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, the attention to detail with the background, especially with the snow. And then yeah, just the character models I think look really great as well. So I'm hoping the animation can match the art, in terms of quality. And yeah, I like that this is a very original story. The fact that they're taking like a very small vague part and then they're creating their own story out of it, I think that's smart, because it gives the writers, very much a lot of creative freedom. I feel like I bring this up a lot whenever we're talking about like kind of background stories that never get fleshed out or fully just don't have a lot of detail to it. I always think it's smart when producers go for adapting those type of storylines, because again, as I always say, it's like you get creative freedom with the writers in terms of what kind of story they're allowed to tell, and it just it helps flesh out the universe and give us a whole new kind of perspective on it. Also, we got a $5 super chat from Blossom. Thank you so much.
Blossom says, I always like when girls wield swords. Yeah, me too. Me too, Blossom. I definitely get like Red Sonja vibes, some Xena the Warrior Princess vibes at times. Yeah, man. And then just the most recent movie too, Damsel. Maybe not necessarily the best movie in the world, but it's always really cool to see Millie Bobby Brown wield a sword. But yeah, girls wielding swords are always badass. Holy Macaroni, the artist rock. Always like to see myself as a warrior, a magic wielding kind, but still. So that's good. I'm glad that you find some connective tissue there, Blossom, between you and characters like that. And I think that's the point, man. That's the point for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, I would agree with you. I am fascinated about this story being told. I'm not gonna lie though. Like when I think of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Two Towers isn't necessarily my favorite of the movies. And I think there is a level of the Rohirrim story that doesn't necessarily capture me as much as I would kind of like it to. Great characters, but just the story wise, I think for me, I felt it felt very much like a side mission sort of story to me than part of the main arc a little bit. But I mean, definitely played into the bigger arc of the story itself. But for some reason, it just never connected with me. And so I am very much fascinated to kind of see what this story was like, because there's a part of me that, one, I've always said this before, I love lore, I love history. And so the fact that we get prequels that kind of go back and build upon what we kind of know, there's a part of me that thinks that after watching this film, and especially considering the fact that Warner Brothers seems to very much be taking this seriously, for this 20 minutes at the Anarchy to get a round of applause, I think is eye opening, and something that we should certainly pay attention to. But when you bring back people that have been connected to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and now they're jumping back on board and getting an incredible director in that own right to bring that anime feel to it, I think it's a great blending of both worlds that will definitely heighten not only the film itself, but I think the lore of Rohan and the Rohirrim. And so I am hoping that come December, when I see this in theaters, that it will then make me want to go back and check out the Two Towers and maybe have just that much more of an appreciation of that story than what I did before. And so with the animated style, with clearly bringing on, writers that certainly know how to tell the story, having a great influence from Tolkien and his appendices and things like that. I'm very eager to kind of see how they build off on that story and really create something of their own in here, and one that I think is hopefully going to turn out to be worthy of having the title of Lord of the Rings sort of attached to its name. So I'm very eager for this too, Stuart. I think initially when they first announced it, I was fascinated by the choice of them doing an animated film. But I think my anticipation has just grown the more and more that we hear about this film, what it's about, and really where it's taking its inspiration from. So I could continue to find myself more and more hyped for this.
Mhm.
Um,
It's a good day to be a Lord of the Rings fan, because now you got you got new content coming to both HBO Max and to Amazon Prime.
yeah, that's true. Hitting us from all ends here. I will one says, when there's supposed to be a Red Sonja movie happening? Yes, I believe it's still in early development. But I do believe we have talked about it here before, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. I wonder
Uh,
if they'll go like the opposite direction of the Schwarzenegger movie, where we had Schwarzenegger, which later had a Red Sonja spinoff movie, but if this time they're going to do it like Red Sonja, and then it'll lead to a Conan movie.
Oh yeah, possibly. Yeah, maybe they'll use that as a great kickoff for something like Conan eventually. Shout out to Film Watcher 96. We're gonna be getting into the Power Ranger talk for sure. So we'll see how it's gonna be our next topic that we're gonna get into, honestly. But yeah, man, let us know your thoughts now that you've had the opportunity to check out the first look images of the War of Rohirrim. How you feeling about this? Get an opportunity to see who the director is, where he's getting his inspiration from. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below if you're waiting for December as much as I certainly am. But yeah, a lot of animation talk today, Stu, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So as we wrap up that portion of today's show, real quick before we get into our next topic, if you guys want to submit your live viewer questions, feel free to go ahead and do so. We do have a live viewer question post that's currently up on our YouTube channel. We dropped it last night, maybe around 7 o'clock ish or so. But if you want to go ahead and submit a live viewer question, just go over to our main YouTube page, click on the community tab, and the most recent post is for live viewer questions. Submit your questions over, and then at the end of the show, we'll go ahead and dive into your questions and answer them live on air. So feel free to go ahead and submit those over. All right, Stu, let's go ahead and transition into our next topic. Is man, you know, I don't want to say we didn't see this coming, but I definitely do think that there was a level of hesitancy certainly happening in regards to the Power Ranger reboot universe. I was certainly very much in anticipation to see what Jonathan Entwistle was certainly going to do. I was very much under the impression that with Jonathan Entwistle working on Karate Kid, that if anything, maybe Hasbro was certainly going to take notice on what he was creating and have much more of an emphasis of, man, we got to make sure that Jonathan Entwistle finishes up this project, knocks this out of the park for us when it comes to Netflix. But unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case anymore. So, look, as we always say, things happen behind the scenes rather quickly in regards to how things are looking, plan on changing, sort of thing. But it does seem as though 2024, unfortunately, is just not the year for Power Rangers, as that's what we're going to certainly talk about today. The Power Ranger reboot. No, not once and always, but just the Power Ranger reboot in general, as it seems as though Netflix is officially separating itself from Hasbro's Power Rangers. Let's go ahead and dive into this article, Stuart, and we'll give as much details about this as we can here. This comes to us from TVLine.com, saying Power Rangers series no longer moving forward at Netflix, Hasbro to redevelop with a new partner. That's right. So this isn't to say that the project is dead per se, but if you thought they were certainly going to team up for with Netflix, that unfortunately is no longer the case here. Does that mean that Power Rangers, when it comes to Hasbro, is dead on arrival? Probably. But it looks like, according to them, Hasbro to redevelop with a new partner. So it feels very much, Stuart, like to me, we're starting from ground one all over again, and trying to redevelop something here. But let's go ahead and dive into the actual article itself. Let's see here. Do I have? Here we go. So this is a Power Ranger series that had been in development at Netflix for more than 2 years has powered down. Sources confirmed for TV Line that the live-action series, which counted Daisy and the Sixth co-executive producer and Supernatural story editor Jenny Klein as its showrunner, working in collaboration with Power Rangers franchise overlord Jonathan Entwistle, is no longer moving forward at Netflix. Power Rangers owner Hasbro Entertainment is in turn is exploring a new creative direction for the series, TV Line hears, and with a new partner. So that line alone says, hey, look, we still want to do something with Power Rangers. Clearly, what we promised Netflix is certainly not happening, but we do want to have a new creative direction for this series and see who else might be interested in picking up this property and certainly working alongside with us. It says the TV Line has reached out to Netflix for comment. And it says Jinsaku first reported on the series stalling. And we'll talk a little bit about Jinsaku's comments as well. Yeah, that's pretty much all that it says in regards to this. He says Entwistle was tapped to oversee the development of both television and film enterprises for Power Rangers, as it once dubbed a Power Rangers cinematic universe. Jonathan has an incredibly creative vision for this iconic and hugely successful franchise, and is hands down the right architect to join us as we imagine the television and film worlds of its property. Stu, I just want to say something real quick before we even get into the bigger picture here.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, I miss Brian Goldner, you know, um, former president of Hasbro. Gentleman passed away a few years ago. And ever since his passing, they wind up getting a brand new CEO in Chris Cox, if I'm not mistaken. And ever since Chris kind of took over, it really has changed the direction and the formula of what I think Hasbro had in mind for Power Rangers. And one of the things that we talked about with the passing of Brian Goldner and the introduction of Chris Cox was, when you get new management, not every management has the same vision, for where they want to take the company itself, the franchises. And it feels clear to me that Chris Cox just did not have the same creative vision that Brian Goldner had. Um, I think Brian Goldner just very much thought on a much bigger scale. And I think Chris Cox at this point is being, I don't want to say frugal, but he just has a different mind space in regards to how he wants to handle the series. And I feel like ever since Chris Cox came on board, the anticipation and the news has just dwindled and dwindled and dwindled and just has not looked good. So there is a part of me, while I miss Brian Goldner for my own reasons, I also miss him because at the end of the day, I think Hasbro really needed somebody like him with a huge creative vision to just expand on some of these franchises. And it feels like Hasbro at this point, I don't know if they don't know what they want to do, but it feels like they're scaling back significantly, and that certainly worries me. Any thoughts on this news before we get into some of Jinsaku's comments?
Yeah, just I don't know. I can't really say I'm like surprised that this isn't going forward, but I am, a little disappointed.
Yeah.
On the other hand, hey, maybe this is a sign that I should pitch them an idea for a movie, and maybe I could be the head of it. I'm kidding. But yeah, no, it is. I don't know. It just means that we gotta wait a little more because let's face it, even if it's not going forward on Netflix, we're gonna be getting a Power Rangers reboot at some point or another. So it'll happen. I just hope that when it does, it's done with respect of the franchise and isn't half-assed like the early Transformers movies or anything like that. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think that is my worry too. Is while I know that they want to redevelop it, so clearly they want to do something with Power Rangers. What does that new vision kind of look like? Like they clearly pitched something to Netflix that was huge, expansive. What's their pitch going to be like now to something like a Hulu or a Paramount Plus or an Amazon? Is it like, hey, we want to really put money towards this and make it big, or is it now, hey, we got to be kind of frugal again, like are they going to want to do adaptions again? Is this the case of no, not adaptions, but we still want to make it a much smaller scale than what we used to, what
Mhm.
we initially had planned? So I don't know what Power Rangers is going to end up being, but it does feel like they still have plans for it. We just don't know. And it is funny that I was just this past weekend, last week I got the opportunity to meet with Joseph Deckelmeyer from the Illuminati and Screen Rant. We've been connected on social media and via text for a year or so now, and this is the first time I got the opportunity to finally meet Joseph in person. Really cool guy, very down to earth, really awesome, fun guy. And we got to talking last week, and before this news even broke, he mentioned to me last Sunday that he doesn't see the Power Rangers series getting off the ground. And I was kind of surprised to hear him say that, but he clearly knew something behind the scenes before it wound up even getting out. And he mentioned, he says, what they're missing is really having somebody that understands Power Rangers,
Mhm.
that understands the lore, understands the fan base and what the fans want. And he was even pitching the idea. He's like, "Hey, man, maybe one day I'll take over as a showrunner or a creative consultant for Power Rangers or something." So he personally just feels like Hasbro is missing that key ingredient of somebody that has a passion for Power Rangers, or at least understands the franchise well enough to create something special, and that's the vibes that I'm certainly getting also.
And that's too bad because I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a producer, I don't know people in Hollywood, but I would think that it's not that hard to find someone who's a good writer, but also is a fan of the franchise. Not like to the extent to being a hardcore fan, like, oh, I can recite like every single line from every season, but enough of a fan of, hey, I grew up with the show. Every now and then I go back to it, I rewatch it, or, every now and then I'll check out the new season to see what they're doing. A fan enough to know what the franchise is really about, and a good writer as well. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm sure there are Hollywood writers out there that know Power Rangers and would love to work on this. So I don't know. That's my hope, is that they look for those kind of writers and they don't go for someone who, just wants to write an action movie and doesn't care, what the property is, because that's when you end up with, not the best like adaptations. With J.J. Abrams' Star Trek reboot, there was like a lot of negative feedback because J.J. Abrams was very open about not being a Star Trek fan when he signed on to do the movie. But what a lot of people don't realize is that he wasn't a fan, but the people who wrote the movie were. You had writers that were fans of the show. So, you can have a director for a Power Rangers movie that probably knows nothing about the franchise. You can give it a whole new vision, but I do think, they should put effort into finding someone who's passionate about the franchise, but also knows how to write a good story. Even if it means having them collaborate with, I'm not saying give like the writers of the original show like full creative control over the script, but have them collaborate with other writers, things like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Let's see here. I do want to bring up also some because TV Line did reference Jin Saku, brought this up earlier in the week. Or he had been mentioning about the idea of this kind of going astray. So this article dropped on the 11th, and Jin Saku actually on the 12th came out and clarified a little bit about what was going on behind the scenes. So I think this is going to give us a really interesting perspective here. So this is from Jin Saku on June 12th here. He says, here's some tea on the Netflix deal. The original pitch back in 2021 to start the contract was the promise of a whole Entwistle Ranger universe. Instead, they got Dino Fury, Cosmic Fury, and Once and Always. During the contract renegotiation, once Hasbro told Netflix they're not moving forward with the reboot and pitched a new idea they want to go with moving forward, Netflix walked away from the deal. Now Hasbro wants to shop this new idea, quote unquote, elsewhere.
Okay, so it was because Hasbro had a new idea that Netflix wasn't down for. I'm
Yes.
very curious what that idea was then.
Yeah. And that's another reason why, to me, it feels like, are we going smaller now? Are we
Oh,
going smaller now?
or do you think that it was that they wanted to try to connect it to their G.I. Joe Transformers universe?
I mean, it's possible, but I would think you would probably want to keep all that stuff on the one streaming service
Yeah,
in regards to Paramount, but I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe you're onto something.
because I'm like trying to think like what Hasbro could possibly pitch to Netflix that would make Netflix turn them down when Netflix is like known for picking up everything.
Everything.
So like I remember that South Park joke of "Thanks for calling Netflix. You've been approved or you've been greenlit."
Yeah.
So
Just and everything.
oh man, so that kind of worries me. Like if Netflix is turning down an idea, that worries me. Like, is it because this idea is really, really bad, or is it because like I don't know, is Hasbro going in a direction that just I don't know.
Yeah, I get this. I get the sense of like smaller scale. I just get the idea that Netflix was promised something on a cinematic universe, and Netflix is now pitching them something else, and they're like, "Bro, that's not what we. It's really not what we initially agreed upon," and it's trying to move on to bigger and better things now. So we'll see.
If it's smaller scale, I actually won't mind. I wouldn't mind that honestly. Because I don't think Power Rangers has ever needed like a huge budget to tell a good story. And I think that, you know, part of the charm of Power Rangers is kind of, you know, the cheaper look to it.
He also adds to a later June 12th post. Again, this is from Jinsaku. He says the reason the reboot got pushed off for too long is because it's expensive. Whistle and Jenny wanted to take the brand more serious and do a 2017 movie style show with money put into it and the overall more mature story and expensive suits that looks like maybe Toku J was involved in. The failure of that 2017 movie had Hasbro scared and worried, so they pitched a cheaper and traditional style show without Whistle, probably MMPR to Netflix, but Netflix didn't want it. One thing I will say here, I find it odd that the failure of the 2017 movie had Hasbro scared and worried. So they pitched something cheaper because I mean, you knew about the failure of the 2017 movie before you greenlit this
Hmm.
project, right? So you're already looking for a cinematic, expansive universe. And if you already know that the person that you literally agreed with in regards to Entwistle and Jenny Klein coming on board, like, where did the fear of failure come into play here in this transition? And the only thing that I like, clearly, Brian Goldner had no fear about it because he clearly felt very much full steam ahead. And so it now brings into question Chris Cox, the CEO, in the sense of his outlook on the franchise. And it feels like if there was anybody that was now worried about the failure, it might have been him.
Hmm.
Because there's no way that you greenlight this idea and concept with Netflix if you're scared, like, right, like you have much bigger plans and feel like that 2017 movie almost hit, and I think we have the the key ingredient for making it work, and now it seems like whoever's new on board here is now having second thoughts, which is a little bit of a bummer. It said Netflix wanted to do the reboot. Netflix didn't want Cosmic Fury or Once and Always, but since money and contracts were involved, that happened. Netflix walked away from the renegotiation because they never got the shows and the movies that they were promised in 2021. At the end of the day, Brian Goldner, I guess, who brought Power Rangers, had a big vision for the franchise, but Cox isn't interested in putting money or doing the new universe. He just wants to save money and not spend on a brand that he doesn't care for, which is why the right to the show will be sold off next year. So this is
Oh.
what he's saying. He says that he believes that the rights are going to be sold off. So, you know, if that's the case, Stuart, I feel very much like then Netflix, I think right now is, and maybe that's probably why he put Hasbro wants to shop this idea, quote unquote, elsewhere, is because maybe it's a case of, one, there really is no motivation to shop it around. Maybe they're literally just waiting for them to sell the rights off first.
That's a okay. I didn't think of that until now, but yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I think they purposely gave Netflix a pitch that they knew Netflix wasn't going to want, and they did that because they just don't want to continue the property. They just want to sell it off. If it is true that they're going to be selling it off the
Right.
property next year, yeah, they're going to probably do everything they can to make sure the reboot doesn't happen. Therefore, yeah, they have that excuse of, well, it's clearly not profitable. We need to sell it.
Because I don't think,
Which
and it's interesting because I think also when I talked with Joseph this past weekend, he did mention the idea of, like, you know, nobody is gonna buy the Power Ranger brand for what Hasbro paid for it, right?
Mhm.
And Hasbro paid like 500 plus $1 million for this franchise when they got it. So now it feels like, if anything, they're probably going to end up having to sell this franchise off much cheaper than what they initially purchased for it. And at this point, I think Chris Cox is probably willing to just like take the hit on this if it means, like, let's just get some money back for this franchise, so that we can put and apply that money to other franchises that he seemingly believes in. And I don't know why I get Saban vibes in the sense of wanting to save money and do things cheaply. But I think even Joseph might have joked around the idea of like, what if Saban buys it back? And I'm like, no,
No,
no. But
no.
it feels like if there's any opportunity for him to want to buy it back, this is probably his opportunity if he wanted to. But I would be curious if anybody would be fascinated in picking up this franchise. Like somebody's got to believe in it, right? Like if you had to think of anybody picking up this franchise, who do you think it would end up being?
Okay, hear me out. Hear me
Okay.
out.
Okay. What
What
you got?
if we as fans all chipped in? We picked one like someone like the Illuminati or Bat in the Sun. We picked one of them to like own the project, but we as fans chip in so that way we could, get enough money for them to do that.
I mean,
We give the brand to someone we know is going to take care of it, basically.
I wouldn't give it to Bat in the Sun for sure, because they're taking forever to release this damn Legend of the White Dragon movie, and I'm starting to get vibes of like those old fan films that people never see the light of day of, but they just collect people's money. So I wouldn't want Bat in the Sun. Look, I'm all for Joseph Deckelmeyer becoming the new showrunner for a Power Ranger or being the creative consultant of a Power Ranger television series or movie or something like that, but yeah, something significant definitely has to change here. I do think Hasbro initially had really big plans for things, but then COVID hits. We get our strikes, Brian Goldner passing, Chris Cox kind of taking over. I mean, you can clearly see a lot of the things out of the Power Ranger franchise's hand that really had to do with the demise of Hasbro's potential for what this series could initially be. Like Chris Cox is a Dungeons and Dragons guy all day. I think that's the realm in which he comes from. And so I can easily see other projects getting elevated over Power Rangers if he's just not mentally connected to it or has is a fan for it whatsoever. It's just a shame that they went from something so cinematic to something very small minded creatively at the end of the day that now they're trying to pitch to possibly other streamers to go ahead and redevelop this, or maybe again, if the report from Jinsaku is true, the possibility of trying to sell off this sell this off to another company at some point in time. But if you guys have any suggestions as to where you would like to see Power Rangers picked up at or purchased at, definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
If I had to predict, I think it will go either to Amazon or Sony. I hope for Amazon just a little bit more because I think with Amazon, they have done a pretty good job at their recent TV show. So if they were going to bring Power Rangers back, I could see them like getting the right people involved with it. Also, this wouldn't be a bad idea because Blumhouse really does seem to really be wanting to expand like the type of movies they produce. And yeah, I wouldn't be against that. I actually could see Blumhouse working.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. Maybe even Legendary. If they wanted to expand upon, they did the original 2017 film. Maybe, and if I'm not mistaken, I think didn't Legendary or somebody, I thought they just picked up Entertainment One.
Oh,
I think they might have actually started working alongside with them also. So maybe if wherever Entertainment One went, maybe Power Rangers will soon follow. Who knows? Film Watcher 96, he also says, to be honest, Hasbro has ruined Power Rangers. Like, look at the new comic series. Hasbro got Boom Studios. Did Power Rangers Infinity. It looks like a joke compared to the other Power Ranger comics we've gotten from them. I don't necessarily know if that's Hasbro ruining Power Rangers via comic book wise, or that's just Boom Studios and some of their new direction that they're certainly going. But I could be wrong in that regards. He says, I can see a reboot being made for Paramount Plus. I think initially when the idea of Power Ranger series was set to go ahead and debut, I think Paramount Plus was one of the first streaming services that I thought of just because of their net connective tissue with like Nickelodeon and things like that. In some of their past films. And so I thought it would definitely make sense in that regards. And he says, and with movies like Transformers and G.I. Joe, maybe it's a perfect fit for something like Paramount Plus. But I think Paramount is in a little bit of a financial struggle themselves. I thought I've heard news of Paramount maybe being sold off also at some point in time. Maybe I'm wrong in that regard. So I don't know if they're in any really big position to purchase a franchise, but maybe they can purchase it for cheap at this point, and make something out of it. So never say never.
Yeah.
Marcelino says, I was hoping that Power Rangers reboot would be on Netflix because then international fans can have access to it. If it goes Paramount Plus, then Australia would not have access to it, period. That was one of definitely the bigger
Oh.
benefits to being on Netflix, was the international stage that it would then be on. More viewers than it would ever have gotten clearly on something like Nickelodeon. And it had a big presence on Netflix. I thought Once and Always, along with Cosmic Fury, did relatively great numbers for Netflix when it certainly aired, despite it not necessarily being what Netflix had asked for.
I didn't know that Paramount Plus wasn't in Australia.
Me either. I will one says it would be better for PR to go animated. Look, man, I'm
Mhm.
100% in agreement with you. I will one. I've been saying this for years now. I've been asking for an anthology series. Even if Hasbro wanted to do, and they did talk about the idea of live action, kids programming, and animated. Despite them wanting to do a reboot, I always thought an animated series would be great, and at least maybe that portion of their Power Ranger franchise still connecting to past Power Ranger content and all the other teams that have been created over the 28 plus years or something like that. I know when I spoke with Joseph Deckelmeyer this past weekend, he too was also pitching the idea of an animated anthology series. I just feel like, again, Stu, we just talked about this, right? We literally just did 3 segments of animated series stuff: Blue Beetle, Creature Commandos, The War of Rohirrim. Power Rangers feels like it's like perfectly made for an animation run. And it's just amazing that nobody has kind of pulled the trigger on that. Financially, it would be um cheaper to certainly make, and I think you have a better opportunity of more success because of just the free range and stories that you can kind of tell in that world of Power Rangers. And then maybe the success of something like that will then be able to introduce us back into something like live action. I just think as of right now, especially with PR's property being in the being where it's at, and maybe being sold off cheap here within the next year, I think the quick turnaround answer is Power Rangers animation at this point. But I don't know. But you're not the only one I will want. I can tell you that. I think a lot of people have been asking for Power Rangers animation for a while now.
It is so weird to me that we still haven't gotten a animated Power Rangers show, because
So weird.
and the fact that it's only really been pitched, as far as I know, it's only been pitched once back when it was owned by Disney. And yeah, the fact that, yeah, we haven't gotten it since then. And even Super Sentai I thought was funny, because I remember at one point I was like wondering, I wonder if Super Sentai has ever done animation before. And it's like, apart from the Super Sentai parodies, like the one that we currently have, Go Go Loser Ranger, no, hasn't even been done on Super Sentai.
Crazy, man. Marcelino's got a couple comments. He says, also hear people say that it should go back to Disney. Fans who never liked are becoming more vocal. Feel like their point is being proven now. He says there are some fans who never liked Hasbro becoming more vocal, as they're now saying Hasbro fans are finally silent and see that Hasbro always hated the franchise. And that's revisionist history,
Mhm.
unfortunately, because that was never the case. I clearly just broke it down in the sense of, you can clearly see where the departure from the support of Power Rangers came from. So Hasbro fans in the past have every reason to have been as vocal as they were in the past, because Brian Goldner clearly had plans for things. It's now just recently, when Chris Cox comes on board, that things start moving in a different trajectory. This is something that we literally project, Stuart. This is something we literally projected years ago when this movement happened. You could probably go back and find my video where I do state the idea that, look, new management usually means bringing new people in, having new visions and creative directions for where they want to take things. This could be a benefit or a curse for Power Rangers at the end of the day. And unfortunately, it was in fact a curse. So, people who have never liked Hasbro, they can get as loud as they want to in regards to feeling like they were proven correct, but they weren't, because Hasbro at some point in time did have big plans for it. It is just now with the taking over of Chris Cox that things have clearly kind of gone into another direction. And so they could be revisionist of history all they want to, but it's just not the truth.
Mhm.
So it's a little sad, but anytime a franchise fails and you have people that have never been a big fan of it or have looked down upon some of the choices, they're always going to take opportunity to voice their stuff when they feel like they've been proven right. Like it takes 4, 5, 7 years for them to eventually be proven right, but the moment something goes a different direction, then they want to say, see, we told you all along, even though you've been wrong for like the past 5 years. So like shut up, bro. Like I don't, it makes no sense to me.
Oh no, you're spot on. Especially like you get people who are not a fan of like Marvel, which is totally fine. If you're not like an MCU fan, but they try to go. You looking at how it took until Phase 4 for Marvel to finally have movies that aren't like super profitable for them to go. See, we told you these movies were bad. Yes, after 10 years, yes, Marvel's finally started developing movies that weren't great.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, you got us.
Yeah, yeah, like they're holding on to stuff for like all these years just to be proven right at some point. Um, let's see here. What else we got? Film Watcher says, not gonna lie, if they sell off the Hasbro era of Power Rangers, would be short. Yeah, short. And
Mhm.
although I will say, despite the shortness, Once and Always I found very much successful. And Cosmic Fury I thought was pretty good also. So I think for the most part, what they were able to create, I thought wind up getting fans motivated, talking a lot about what was going on. I saw a lot of positivity surrounding both those projects. It's just a shame that they really couldn't capitalize on other things. Hearing this makes the Hasbro era seemingly pointless. I'm glad with what they did initially, but ever since Brian Goldner's passing, it's really complicated the brand. Yeah, and
Mhm.
that's really, I think, the headline of this Power Ranger franchise in regards to where it's at as of right now. Is you can honestly tell that it misses Brian Goldner's touch for sure.
I don't know if I would say it was pointless. I would just say that it had a good run. It's just unfortunate that it didn't get to continue. Because here's the thing, like Saban era, how many seasons did we get of that? We had 8 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. How many of seasons of Power Rangers during the Neo Saban? Sorry, I meant Neo Saban, not original Saban, but Neo Saban era. How many seasons did I like? One. And then we go to Hasbro. How many seasons did we get with that? 5. How many did I like? 5.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, yeah. So I wouldn't say it was a pointless era because we still got 5 pretty solid seasons. We got some. I know that people have their issues with the Lightning collection and everything, but from the few figurines that I did collect from the very beginning, which I just couldn't afford to keep up with because I think like when I started collecting figurines is when I started to also go to school, so I just couldn't afford to keep up with collecting them. But from what I did get, I really enjoyed them. But I totally get the complaints that other fans had with as they kept going. I guess the quality went down. So, not denying that there were definitely some issues with Hasbro, but I don't think those issues would be fixed at all if Neo Saban got the rights back to it. I think that if anything, it would just continue to feel out of touch with today's audiences. Because sorry, I'm rambling, I know, but just the main thing that I think Hasbro like knew was like that Hasbro kind of knew that kids weren't stupid, which is something that Saban
Mm.
clearly didn't know. Saban had a very dated mindset of how kid shows should be done, how kid shows should be ran, and it clearly didn't work. And whereas like Hasbro was starting to really turn the franchise around because they were writing it for kids obviously, but they weren't afraid to like actually try with the writing. They knew that just because it's a kid show, that doesn't mean dumbing down the writing like they did during the Saban era.
Yeah, I guess my worry of Saban coming back, if he were to pick up the rights, would just be just this closed-minded idea of like what Power Rangers can only be, and then maybe
Hmm.
just going back to more Super Sentai footage and adaptions. And I'm sure, that'll definitely please a lot of the niche fans. But if you're cool with Power Rangers getting 100,000 views a week, viewership wise, and thinking that's successful for a franchise. I just feel like Power Rangers has the potential to be just so much more. When you got big time movies like Transformers doing significantly well, things like Ultraman being back, really gaining a lot of momentum here, just internationally and stuff. I just think that, Power Rangers just needs another approach. So I'm sure there are going to be some fans that are hoping that it goes back to its days of adaptation. But I just want to see something bigger. It doesn't seem like that's what we're going to be getting, though.
At least not
Uh,
anytime
at least
soon.
not anytime soon, right? We don't really know what the future is going to hold for Power Rangers right now. So, DHR says my honest suggestion would be to go to Paramount Plus because Hasbro and Paramount Plus have a good relationship. That's quite true. What if you put Power Rangers Paramount Plus or Tubi? God, please don't go to Tubi. I just think we're dwindling the reach here for Power Rangers.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to having all the seasons go to Tubi, for
Tubi.
watching, but like, I mean, not I wouldn't necessarily want Tubi to develop Power Rangers because their whole thing is purposely trying to make things as cheaply as possible.
DHR says if they go animation, I want it to be like TMNT Mutant Mayhem style. I can see it turning out amazing. The marketing would go ape-ish. Nice.
Yeah.
Disney, Marcelino says Disney, when they own Power Rangers, try to repeatedly cancel the live action with an animated series. That's why an animated series rubs people the wrong way because it tried to replace the series.
I didn't know that. Okay. You learn something new every day.
Film Watcher 96. So Power Rangers would be great idea for animation. I still think that it would, honestly.
Yeah.
Marcelino says people like Dom's writers say that maybe the franchise going dead limbo for a few years is maybe and then it comes back strong. One of the things that I said after the 2017 movie and then not getting the sequel was, I do think Power Rangers does deserve a little bit of a break, at least from the big screen. I thought a nice separation would be maybe like 5 to 7 years. But they had bigger plans on trying to get a movie back up initially as early as 2021. But now we are 7 years removed from a Power Ranger movie. So I do think time certainly helps. Um, but not only that does time help, but when it comes back, you got to have somebody attached to it that actually wants to make Power Ranger content. You got to come back not only just by distance, but also a really great idea in mind, whether that be movies, television, or animation form. So yeah, I do agree. Time heals all wounds in the sense of people will eventually have gotten over the 2017 film, which again, I don't think a lot of people think that movie was bad. I just don't think they think it was good enough.
Mhm.
And so I do think that there's momentum that they can kind of build upon. But again, you got to get it certainly in the right hands. And I think that's going to be the big question as to one, if Hasbro wants to keep these rights and redevelop it with somebody else, who's that somebody else going to be and what's that pitch going to be like so that when Power Rangers comes back, could it be successful? Or if they do sell off the property, who has good intentions for the project? And I think that'll certainly say a lot of things. But yeah, guys, sad news if you're Power Rangers fans, but possibly hopeful to kind of see where this franchise goes, certainly in the future. But I could definitely understand a lot of people's disappointment, and just don't let anybody rewrite history for you. Okay,
Mhm.
just remember that. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, we got two more topics before we get into live viewer questions here. So let's dive into this. And Stuart, at this point, I don't know if Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios is trolling me right now, but this is just deja vu, like all over again. I honestly have lost track of how many times we've reported that this movie has lost a writer or a director, but it's getting to the point of it being absolutely ridiculous now. Like they got to be trolling at this point. But we wind up getting more news this week, guys, that Blade, that's right. I don't know if do we even remember when this was first announced? Mahershala Ali,
Oh
fresh off of an
man,
Oscar win years ago.
2019, like right at like I think it was before Endgame even ended.
It might have been. It might have been. Mahershala Ali picked up the phone, told Kevin Feige, "Hey, bro, I want to be in an MCU movie." Kevin Feige said, "Yes, sir. Whatever you want." 5 years later, we're still waiting for it. This movie has been in production hell like nobody's business. It has hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And if I could be honest, I'm even surprised Mahershala Ali is even still attached to this. It's probably one of the big reasons why he picked up this Jurassic World movie. Like, look, this script is probably great. I need a paycheck right now. You guys are clearly not ready for me to get in front of an MCU camera. So let me go ahead and find something else to do at my time. But believe it or not, Marvel's Blade has lost another director. I don't know what's in the water when it comes to this movie, but let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart. We'll try and break this down as quickly as we can. But this one comes to us from the Wrap. The Marvel's Blade loses director Jan Damage. This is an exclusive. He's the second director to depart the project, as MCU veteran Eric Pearson now works on the screenplay. So it says Jan Damage is no longer directing Marvel Studios' Blade. The Wrap has exclusively learned the parting with the French Algerian filmmaker actually happened a while ago and was entirely amicable. Damage, best known to date for directing the television series Lovecraft Country and Top Boy, was the second director to part ways after replacing Bassam Tariq, who directed the Mowgli movie. Veteran writer Eric Pearson, most slowly worked on the Fantastic Four, is currently working on the Blade script. Michael Starbury, Nick Pizzolatto, and Michael Green wrote previous drafts of the script. So they're like on their third or fourth writer for this movie also. Mahershala Ali is still attached to star as the half-human vampire hunter. It says, according to an insider with knowledge, getting Blade right is much more important than getting the film out. The pressure to produce as much content as possible has been lifted, and the studio is now looking to release just 2 films per year, which gives the team at Marvel Studios some breathing room. The next Studio 4 films, Deadpool and Wolverine, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four, are almost done or well underway. Blade has had several setbacks since it was first announced back in 2019. There you go. Marvel does not want to rush something into production that isn't ready. The Blade movies were deeply important to the Marvel brand back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and the team feels an incredible amount of responsibility and pressure to crack the character and story. So, Stuart, while you've said how hard could it possibly be to make a Blade movie, clearly it is very, very difficult. As they're trying to break the puzzle to figure out how to make this a successful movie. What are some of your thoughts on this?
Man, it's so hard to talk about this without repeating myself, but
I feel like you've slumped lower in your seat
I
as we've
did.
talked about this article.
I did because I just okay. So yeah, I again, I just don't know what to say now because I've already said it all. How hard can it be to make a Blade movie? How is Mahershala Ali not like just walking out at this point? Like at this point, I would be giving Marvel an ultimatum. Like, okay, I'm out. If you guys can't just get a script done, like it doesn't even have to be a finished draft. Just get a rough draft and a director. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't
My
even say
man's
I'm disappointed.
speechless.
Yeah, I'm speechless. I can't even say I'm disappointed this time. This has happened so much. It's just like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Those are my thoughts. I'm not surprised.
Oh man.
Or how people say I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. No, I'm not disappointed because I kind of saw this coming. I'm mad.
Film Watcher says, "Oh no, not Blade again. I want this movie to happen, man. Damn it, Kevin.
Damn it, Kevin.
Damn it, Kevin. Yeah, that's understandable. Look, man, I post, my first initial reaction when I heard the story was like, I posted on Twitter and I was just like, why are we even making this movie now, guys? Like, why? Like, what is the importance? I
It's
will
like
once say it's like skating uphill with this film. Ain't that the truth? Like,
it's like
at
it's
the
like a one-legged cat trying to bury its turds on a frozen pond.
I'm just I'm just trying, like, why are we making this movie, guys? Like, at this point, one, it felt like a movie that initially wasn't even on the radar to be made. And now I've said this before, it feels like they're just trying to make this movie now, not only to appease Mashallah Ali, but then to figure out just how do we place this into our MCU story that we're kind of doing. And so for me, look, if they are I will say this. If they are this adamant about making this movie happen, um, I think the strikes were the best thing that happened for this movie. And I do think their new approach, as this article states, about them reeling things in a little bit so that they don't have as many releases every year is probably a smart choice for this movie. Like, the idea of them wanting to have dropped this movie in 2025 was just ridiculous to me, because it felt like, and that was the initial plan, because to me it just felt like, one, you're going to be rushing this script to happen. One, you're going to be rushing people to get in front of cameras before things are even properly ready. Three, the special effects, if there are any in here, you're really asking them to knock out a movie within like a year's time, year and a half time. And that just feels like way too rushed for me if you want this movie to be successful. But now we come into a place where we have Deadpool and Wolverine dropping this movie. This year. This is the only movie that we're getting. But now that you've got other movies like Thunderbolts, Captain America, and Fantastic Four, some of these already announced to drop 2025. Now I'm not expecting a Blade movie till at least 2026, at the latest 2027, because I would think that you would want this movie to either drop in the summertime of 2026, or at least fall, winter time of 2026, or maybe even the following fall of 2027. So I do think the idea, especially with them mentioning that this director change took place a while ago and it was an amicable split, I do think that this does in turn give Marvel more breathing space, at least, to be able to sit back and actually kind of get this right. But I'm not going to lie, the countless sort of like the lane of this film has ruined any sort of momentum and
Mhm.
excitement and anticipation that I've had for this movie. I just don't care for this movie anymore. Like, I just don't. This movie could come out in 2029 and I would not care at this point. Um, and if you want me to care about this movie, I will say this. I don't want Marvel to talk about this movie at all.
Yes.
I don't want any other further details about this movie until you have gotten a writer and a big name director attached to this film that would get me hyped. Marcelino in here says, I want Jordan Peele to direct this film, but he's not interested in comic book movies, so I don't think that's happening. If you next year were to announce Jordan Peele doing a Blade movie, my interest would be piqued again.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to get that level of excitement for anything. Like, you can get me hyped and interested again by naming a big name writer and the director attached to this in the next year or so. But I am not going to care about this movie until I see a trailer at this point, or first look images, or I know that production and filming has actually begun on this film. Like, I'm going to need hard, concrete evidence that something's actually working behind the scenes to make this happen. Otherwise, I just don't care, Stuart. I just don't care anymore for this, unfortunately, man. It's ruined my anticipation and excitement for this.
It's good to know we're kind of like on the same level. It's like at this point, if they do have a new director that joins, just don't announce it. Just let
Just
it be
don't
one of
announce
those things that we only know about because some reporter is reporting about it. I just don't want Disney talking about this movie until they have a finished script and a director who is on board and they're about to start like actual production. Then start telling me news about this movie. Stop telling us, oh, it's happening. Stop. It's like George R. R. Martin in that South Park parody of Game of Thrones. Oh, the dragons are coming. The pizza's coming, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, another disappointment for the MCU here. This is like the most difficult thing I've seen like the Marvel Studios attempt to do. I've never seen them struggle so much with bringing something to life like this before. So we'll see. Hopefully, with their new mindset, they will be able to take a step back and create something incredible. But again, I do not care about this movie anymore until I know it's in production. So
Yeah.
we'll see how this goes, guys. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. Are you more positive about this? Are you negative about this? What are you hoping happens with this project? But at this point, I'm just like, why are we doing this? Or don't say anything until we got something concrete. But
Yeah.
yeah, let us know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section box below.
It's like the Ghostbusters 3 of the MCU. Those who don't remember, before like 2016, there was like they kept saying, "Oh, Ghostbusters 3 is happening! It's happening, guys! Ghostbusters 3 is happening!"
And yeah, we saw how that turned out. But
Mhm.
all right, guys, and with that out of the way, we're down to our last topic of the day, and I thought this was a pretty fascinating one. And while I am a fan of Star Trek, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Star Trek, like say Stuart might be, or even Will and Polk, who are really involved in this Star Wars universe. But we have been keeping you very much up to date on the world of Star Trek, as this franchise certainly seemingly continues to expand, as they have two projects currently in the works. One that will, in fact, sort of be a Star Trek 4, if you will, for the Chris Pine cast, along with very much a prequel film that they're going to be working on titled Star Trek Starfleet Academy. And this week, we wind up getting some huge casting announcement in regards to who's going to be joining this particular franchise and film. And Stuart, I was not expecting such a huge name like this guy to be attached, but you have got my attention with this one. As when it comes to Star Trek, Variety's reporting that Paul Giamatti is joining the Starfleet Academy movie as its main villain. That's right, Paul Giamatti. I think he might have been fresh off of an Oscar nomination from The Holdovers, which I thought was a really fun and great film, honestly. And Paul Giamatti to me is just an amazing actor. And I'll talk a little bit more about him, but let's go ahead and get into this actual article itself. It says, set phasers to stunned in another casting coup, the upcoming Paramount series. Oh, it's a Paramount series. I thought this was a movie. It says a Paramount Plus series, Star Trek Starfleet Academy, has cast Emmy winner and multiple Oscar nominee Paul Giamatti in the recurring guest role. Maybe so they have another Star Trek movie in the works outside of this series. I honestly, Stuart, thought this was the movie, but this is a Paramount series. They're bringing Paul Giamatti in a recurring guest role as the first season's main villain, who has a sinister connection to the past of one of the yet to be cast cadets. Um, Giamatti joins Holly Hunter, who Variety exclusively reported in May as boarding Starfleet Academy as the Academy's captain and chancellor. So you got Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti on board a series, Stuart. Not even a film, but a series. He says, sometimes you're lucky enough to discover that one of the greatest actors alive is a huge Star Trek fan. And meeting Paul was one of those miraculous moments for us, is what co showrunner Alex Kurtman said. The sheer delight with which he dove in on Starfleet Academy is only surpassed by the gratitude we feel about him joining our incredible cast. While Star Trek shows have always featured an impressive array of acting talent, yeah, I was immediately, Stuart, just thinking about Michelle Wu already on board, like their upcoming Star Trek film. What she's already done on Discovery, and now you're bringing somebody like Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti. I mean, the names just, it's amazing who they've been able to cast. Rarely has Star Trek show launched with quite this much star power, underlining how much of a property Starfleet Academy has become for Paramount Plus. When the show begins shooting in Toronto later this summer, it will include the largest contingent set ever constructed for a Star Trek series. An academic atrium spanning 2 stories with an amphitheater, classrooms, a mess hall, and an idyllic walkway lined with trees. As the title suggests, the series will chronicle the lives of the Academy's cadets, from their academic and romantic pursuits to contending with the newest adversary to endanger the peace and prosperity of the United Federation of Planets. Producers are also said to be seeking emerging talent for the younger cast. Um, yeah, man, a lot of things are happening as shows like Picard, shows like Discovery kind of wrap up. Clearly, they might be taking their foot off the pedal in some cases, but man, Starfleet Academy has the potential of being an incredible brand new show alongside things like Strange New Worlds as well. Stuart, as the fellow Star Trek fan here, what's your thought about not only this series, which again I thought was a film, but this isn't even a film based off of the stars that they have. This is a series. How do you feel about this, man?
Loving the casting so far. Very surprised that they didn't try to hide the fact that Paul Giamatti is playing the villain. I thought they would have gone the route of Jason Isaac from Star Trek Discovery season 1, where he's set up to be the captain, someone who's like the good guy, and then revealed halfway through, oh nope, he's the villain. But so I'm surprised they're not doing that with his character. But regardless, I'm excited to see him join the world of Star Trek. He is an amazing actor, and yeah, he's a guy with range. So I'm excited to see what he does as a sci-fi villain. Holly Hunter, she just feels like she'll fit in just fine with the Star Trek
Yeah,
world. Like
yeah.
her acting style just fits very much in line. A lot of things that I'm also looking forward to the setting, like the fact that we're actually focused on Starfleet Academy. I like that because it's something that we've seen in almost every Star Trek season, but we've never really gotten to, explore that much. We've only gotten to see glimpses of, like in Star Trek Next Generation, we visit Starfleet Academy a few times, and we get some ideas of what the students do outside of class, but we never really get a full idea of what the classes are actually like, unless you want to go by the J.J. Abrams movies. So all this to say, I love everything about this, except I will be honest, the one thing that I am not the biggest fan of personally is the timeline. Because this one, I think it's supposed to take place in the 31st century. So it'll be like, around the time Discovery ends, which I'll be honest, they did kind of set up with Tilly, because she's like now going to be working at Starfleet Academy, so she'll probably
Oh,
be a character in the show.
okay.
And I like her character in Discovery, so it's cool that she'll be coming back possibly. uh I don't know, but to me, it's just I'm not a big fan of that timeline in general. I just don't think it aesthetically is like my thing. I just don't like the 31st century look aesthetically for the most part. So that's my only disappointment personally. But in terms of the actors we're getting, it seems like the people who are behind the show are putting a lot of effort into it. The fact that they're talking about how the sets are going to be huge. That's something I've always liked about kind of modern Star Trek is they've taken the sets to a whole new level. Sorry, my voice cracked there. That's embarrassing. But you look at how original Star Trek, they very much had very limited positioning in terms of what they were allowed to do with camera movements. But what I like about modern Star Trek is the sets are bigger, and they're allowed to do a lot more with camera movements and things like that. So if the sets are bigger in this and there's more of them, you can definitely look forward to a much bigger like cinematic feel when it comes to this series, which I am looking forward to seeing. So definitely more positive than negative. My only gripe, of course, is the timeline.
I am. Is there a reason behind them visiting so much prequel stuff compared to moving sort of the stories and stuff forward in time?
Oh, it's not a prequel. It'd be the furthest in the timeline, technically.
Like
Um,
past, like out, like further out.
Yeah, because like so for
Because when I
Discovery
think of,
season 3,
uh-huh.
it started as a prequel, but then it ended with them having to travel to the future. So it ends up moving to the farthest in the timeline in the 31st century, and that's where this will take place, is that 31st century.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. I don't know why my headspace was still very much stuck in Strange New Worlds, which is that's a prequel though, correct?
Yeah. That
Okay.
one's before season 1, or before the original series.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, yeah, I didn't know how Discovery had ended, so that makes sense then in the sense of it being in the future. So, okay, interesting, man. Very interesting stuff. For me, considering I don't really follow the series as much as I certainly would like to, I think I watched the first two seasons of Discovery. I saw some of Picard season one, and then I eventually just kind of fell off. There was just so many series kind of coming out. If there was one that I wouldn't mind actually sitting down and watching, it probably would be Strange New Worlds, and then maybe jumping on board Starfleet Academy. I mean, the two names announced already in Holly Hunter along with Paul Giamatti has my interest peaked
Mhm.
already. For me, Paul Giamatti is one of those characters. Not only, I mean, is he just an incredible actor that has a incredible credits to his name, to say the least. But I literally just finished watching him in The Holdover sometime last year when I did my review on the movie. Um, he's just one of these actors that when you see on screen, you forget that he's even Paul Giamatti. Like he embraces and immerses himself so much into these characters that whoever the character is that he portrays, you believe his character. You believe he's him. And so for me, I think this is a brilliant pickup, especially when it comes to just a villain role, because you want your villains to be believable, and somebody that can bring the villain's motives to life. And I think Paul Giamatti, just anything that he touches, like I'm gonna be there to certainly pay attention to. And I also love just the how Alex Kurtman talks about this casting and just how humble he is and like how thankful he is because he recognizes just how big of a name Paul Giamatti is to be attached to anything. Again, this ain't even a Star Trek movie. Like this is literally a series and you get Paul Giamatti. I think that just speaks wonders to maybe how great the script is. Especially when you already have a big name like Holly Hunter sort of announced to this, whether or not Paul Giamatti knew Holly was going to be attached to this or not. But I do find it fascinating that not only is he a big fan, but clearly my thing would be the script has got to be good because if Paul Giamatti was a big Star Trek fan, I could see him having to have wanting to be in anything else. But the fact that he decides to come on board for this one, I think, is fascinating, and I think it says wonders about the showrunner himself, Alex Kurtman, too, in regards to the respect that he plays to Paul Giamatti and being so thankful. So I think this is a huge move, great casting choice. And if my anticipation level has moved any for Starfleet Academy, it's probably because of this news too, man. So I'm pumped for this. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah. The thing I'm hoping for from the show is um I guess this would be the one benefit of the timeline that's taking places, and I'm hoping this can be one that like anyone can just hop in and watch, and you don't have to be like a Star Trek fan to really understand what's going on. Which I feel like every season of Star Trek tries to do that, and I think they do a good job for the most part. But I'm really hoping they continue that with this one. Like I want this to feel like a show where if you've never seen Star Trek before, this can be your first one.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Because I would be kind of curious as to where like the Michelle Yeoh movie comes into play. Where will Discovery be mentioned in this series and all? So yeah, I am kind of fascinated to see how this plays out. But look, guys, let me know your thoughts. Paul Giamatti joined Starfleet Academy series. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, I think you know what time it is, sir.
Yeah. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions. Questions.
And we're going to go to live viewer question segment of the show. If you've ever wondered, how do I submit a live viewer question? It's pretty simple, man. Pretty simple. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. So you're just going to go over to, oh, you know what? I think I even pulled up the wrong thing. Goodness, Adam, you don't even know how to get to your own channel. Hold on, let me pull this up here.
Oh, I just realized I got to re-log in. Hang on.
Oh, it's a YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, let me, I did change the password last
You,
time.
you sent it to me. I'm just,
Oh.
I think you did. Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe.
All right. So then just go over to our YouTube channel. As you see here, you're going to click on that community tab. And every Saturday, we will post a live viewer question post for you guys, as you see right here. We got 5 comments that we're going to be breaking down for you guys today and answering your guys' questions. We're probably going to wrap up here in about 30 minutes or so. So
I do, unfortunately, have to leave at 12, regardless of if we
yeah,
finish or
we'll
not,
try.
but
Yeah, we'll try. We'll
yeah.
try and wrap this up quick. Really enjoyed Strange New Worlds. Glad you liked it, man. I
Yes.
definitely need to get on board with it too. All right, so let's try and get some of this background music. Let me know if it's too loud. Let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and we got Doomsday. If it's too loud comments, guys, let me know. Doomsday. If we have the Tokuger crossover episode that was mentioned, we were initially getting those Boomger scans. Do you think it'll be kind of like Go On Your Team Up, where it's only one Ranger returning and it feels like it's just there for fan service and feels more like a filler episode? Or you think it's actually gonna feature the whole Tokuger team with the Boomgers and actually feel like it's it has a purpose to be there? I hope it's the whole team personally, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's just a one person though.
They unlike Power Rangers, Super Sentai usually does a really good job of getting everyone back for the crossovers.
So I was kind of thrown off that the Go On Your crossover episode was just one member, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. With the MCU's third movie curse, where the heroes lose something in the end, what do you think Deadpool will lose in his third outing alongside Wolverine?
Ooh, I know. I think in order to save his universe, he's going to have to leave it behind, and it'll be their excuse of bringing Deadpool into the MCU.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he loses his universe in the sense of he walks away from it. So I agree with you. I think that's what he loses. It's just a big emphasis on, you know, the way when you watch the trailers, it's just the emphasis on these people are important and mean something to Deadpool. You know what I mean? So I think that's where they're leading us. Did you hear Cosmic Fury received 4 nominations at this year's Kids' Choice Awards? Favorite TV show, Chance Perez was nominated for favorite male TV star. Hunter Deno and Tessa Rao both nominated for favorite female kid TV star. Oh man,
that's so cool.
That's congratulations for everybody being nominated for sure. I don't know. Oh, you said Cosmic Fury was going up against Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't know who the that's a Hunter Deno and Tessa Rao. I think those are great nominations. I will be interested to see who their competition is, but I hope it's one of them. I hope one of them wins. And I think there's I gotta reload this, Stuart, but I might need you to see if there's more to Marcelino's comments, because he put number 1 there, so I'm thinking there's more. So while you look that up, I will. I'm going to move on to Peg C, but then we'll come back to Marcelino. Peg C says, "What are your thoughts on the news that Netflix is no longer moving forward with Power Rangers reboot?" So we talked about it. We had a whole little segment about it. Overall, certainly bummed. It's just a shame that they went from such a broad concept and idea of expansive idea of what they wanted Power Rangers to be to something that's much smaller, much more frugal, and not as as creative as I was certainly hoping that it would be, considering that Chris Cox is now trying to save money, doesn't really have that connection to the franchise. So, bit of a disappointment, but I want to remain hopeful that whoever does pick up Power Rangers next, or whoever Hasbro might team up with, maybe they have a better vision and actually care for the franchise. Is the only thing I can hope for. Have you watched the new Ultraman series on Netflix? If so, what are your thoughts? You talking about the Ultraman Rising? Well, I don't think that's unless there's another series on there that the most recent one that went for like 2-3 seasons. I haven't watched all of it. I do want to go back. I watched the first season of that series, but I haven't watched the rest of it. So outside of Ultraman Rising, I don't know of another Ultraman project on Netflix besides that 3-season series that we wind up getting. Did you ever check it out, Stuart?
So I checked out the original anime that was on Netflix, but I haven't checked out the newest animated. I thought it was a movie, but if it's a series, I do plan to get around to it eventually, though, because I do love the overall like premise for it.
Yeah, I think they just dropped another trailer for it recently, or another clip from it. I'm trying to see when it releases. Maybe it has released already. Yeah, June 14th. So it just dropped then. But it is a film. I don't believe it's a series. But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it says well, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, just under 2 hours. So no, I have not watched it yet, but I definitely want to, because I was a big fan of the premise also. What are your thoughts on the Last Ronin writers wanting original 90s April to be involved in the live action adaptation?
Dude, if they made this a direct sequel to the 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I would be down for it. I was a big fan of hers, for the one that played it in the original.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would love that.
I think that for what it is, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is a perfect adaptation.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have Marcelino's first comment here. What are your thoughts on Amit Bamik's rejected pitch for Power Rangers Samurai? His pitch would have involved embracing the Japanese elements of Shinkenger, but not fully copying it story beat for beat. As much as I would love to go into greater detail, I think it's best experience if you read it for yourself. So here's the link in case you were ever interested. I probably won't read it right now, but I definitely will give it a read for sure. I mean, if you say embracing Japanese elements of Shinkenger, but not fully copying it story beat to beat, boom, already better than Samurai.
Yeah.
So, I would definitely.
Oh wow,
open to that.
I'm on the Tumblr page right now, and like he has details like not only for the summary, but also for like characters, their age, and then even episodes, like a description of how he would have adapted every episode. Dang.
Yeah, I just pulled it up too.
I remember
pilot. Wow. Okay.
So there was one time, because he was like talking about it was the Beast Morphers crossover. Amit Bamik on Twitter, he was like posting about it, and like how he was kind of like disappointed just because they brought in Jason for a cameo, but he just thought it was pointless if they weren't going to do much with him. And so like I jokingly like replied to him, I'm like, this is why they need to bring you back into the writers' room, and then he just like replies, no thanks.
I mean, look, if they're looking to, he looks like he's got some pretty fresh and great ideas from what I'm kind of scanning through. But get him attached to a Power Ranger project in the future. If they're trying to sell the Hasbro property off to somebody, if you need like a guiding light a little bit, maybe he's got some great ideas.
Yeah, they should hire him for what they usually get. They usually have this with Star Trek. Like they'll get like really, really big like Star Trek, like not necessarily just fans, but people who like basically have an encyclopedic knowledge of Star Trek to look over the writing of every Star Trek script that gets released, whether it's for television or movies. And their job is to just make sure that it's like in continuity. They should totally hire him for that, because I feel like he's a big enough fan. I mean, he's like one of those rare people that actually has made fan fiction and then also gotten to work on the show itself. That's like rare that something like that happens. So I think that'd be something it's cool to see him getting back involved in the franchise.
Yeah, I hope so. This is a prime opportunity for him to really put his name in the hat for sure, to get more involved. Like whoever literally picks up the franchise, I hope that he's in communication with, in order to like maybe get first look. But yeah, I do think Power Rangers probably needs like 2 or 3 people that are like the Power Ranger Bible or encyclopedia to have a good concept and head on their shoulders about what the franchise represents. To they may not necessarily be the direct screenwriters or the directors of whatever reboot happens, but to be on as creative consultants, executive producers, and have like the overall scope of maybe what Power Rangers should be. I think he should definitely be given an opportunity, man. But I'm definitely going to go ahead and dive into this even further, because yeah, he looks like he's got some great ideas here. So thanks for sharing that, Marcelino. Was there a second one there, Stuart? A second and third question?
Oh no, just that one.
Really? Okay, I thought there was more to it. Okay. Because he had number 1 there, so I wasn't sure if there was like a part 2 or 3. But you're only showing on your end. You're only showing the 1.
Yep.
Okay. Let me sort this again. I just wanted to refresh it. We did Pixie already. Jessica Friedman. With Netflix no longer doing the Power Ranger reboot, where do you think the franchise should go, and what direction should it take? And would you like to see a new animated Speed Racer series one day? Yeah, give me an animated Speed Racer series one day. I would be completely down for that. And also, just to jump on top of that again, animated, since you brought up animated Speed Racer, direction it should go for the Power Ranger franchise, animation should be key to this. Like, I'm not saying animation over live action. I still believe Power Rangers should do live action, but why you can't do both, I don't understand. I just think Power Rangers is built for something animation wise, especially after we've seen great success from something like a Netflix Voltron series. Like, I just think there's so much possibility and potential, and it would definitely allow you to tap back into the classic franchise, and do a Power Ranger reboot as a live action. I just think there's so much potential there. So any idea where you think the franchise should go, Stu?
Power Rangers wise, yeah, I think an animated series would be a good way to start. Like, I don't want it to just be limited to animation, but because we haven't seen it before, I think it would be a great way to start a new franchise. Also, hang on.
Yeah, Marcelin does say he's got.
So he has another. So go ahead and like copy and paste the question into the
into the chat maybe,
because it's not showing up on my end. Or
you know what? Here we go. I just got it.
It is.
Just
there
got
it
it.
is.
It just did it for me. Would Crisis on Infinite Earths have benefited if it had a Black Lightning episode, making it a 6-part event? I know the real reason why it didn't happen because Black Lightning was filmed in Atlanta while the rest of the shows were filmed in Vancouver, but I can't help but think that it would have helped the pacing and could have been given us more interaction between Black Lightning cast and the rest of the Arrowverse cast.
Here's the thing. Even though, yes, I do understand that was the reason, and I think it would have benefited if he had more time in Vancouver when he arrived, because I actually loved the fact that it was completely like his whole thing like was still tied into Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it was separated, because it was cool seeing a character who had no idea what was going on happen to experience the collision of the multiverse and just like completely taking him out of his regular story that he had going on. To me, I thought that was like such a unique way to tie him into Crisis on Infinite Earths. I just wish that when he was in Vancouver, he had more time, because it was so clear with how very little scenes he was in that they only had him there for like 2 or 3 days, and they had to get him done as soon as possible so they could fly him back to Atlanta to film Black Lightning. That's where I think it would have benefited more, personally.
I get you. No, I totally agree. Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily needed the only reason why I think I would need another episode for Black Lightning would just be, I just wanted to see more of the Flash and Black Lightning interaction. But I do agree with you. I kind of lean a little bit more in your direction. When it comes to Marvel and DC adaptations, many people hate the idea of original characters being created. The reason why is because there's almost always written terribly. And the worst part of the adaptation, they fill in roles for characters that already exist in the comics. So rather than adapting those characters, they instead create a new one, or it begins to feel like an adaptation or slowly become a parody. CW always has criticism, and now with the DC, with the MC, with Giancarlo Esposito possibly having playing an original character, do you share similar feelings? Well, one, to be fair, I don't know Esposito's full role, so even if it is an original character, who's to say it's a great one or a terrible one? So I'm not going to judge the MCU on something that we haven't necessarily seen as of yet. I don't. Do we have any other original MCU characters that they've created, Stu, that you can think of?
Not too many come off the top of my head. Like there's Darcy. I don't think she was in the comic books.
I think they eventually.
Huh?
I think they eventually introduced Darcy, which I thought was a brilliant idea. I like Darcy as an original character.
Man, there's probably way more examples. Just I can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if he is playing an original character, I know you say possibly playing an original character, but I'm not going to give the MCU that sort of level of criticism yet because I haven't had the opportunity to see exactly what this possible original character is like yet. So it could be great for the MCU for all I know. I personally thought Darcy was great if she wasn't a character in the MCU prior, but I don't really have enough context or enough characters to be like, yeah, this is a growing problem for people to be concerned about when it comes to the MCU. Like if they're concerned about anything, there's so many other things to be concerned about besides original characters.
Wait, who's the second character? That's meant Darcy and Kahori. Who is that?
Oh, the What If character that they created for animation.
I
kind of like. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I liked her. I just
yeah, I actually liked her character.
Yeah, it just felt very disconnect. Like it was just interesting to make a what if character that was original. Because if anything, like I feel like the what ifs would have been limited to like established characters. So I thought it was an interesting choice, but I still thought it was a pretty cool episode.
Yeah, well, for me, I kind of think like if you're going to create any like new original character, I thought What If is like the perfect opportunity because of the fact that you are delving into like alternate realities and different universes and stuff, right? So the opportunity to be able to create something new in this big sandbox of multiverse worlds kind of really made sense to me. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with Kiori at all. I thought she was I thought she was a really well used character and a pretty good story for her for episode for season 2 of What If. So yeah, out of all the original stuff they've created, I got no problem. That's why I'm saying like I don't that many people hate the idea of original characters. Like what is there to hate? We literally have only had like 2 characters and possibly a third, and neither of those I feel like have ruined Marvel Studios franchise in any way possible. Like I just think there's other things that people should concern themselves with.
I don't have a problem with a majority of the CW original characters. I think for the most part they kind of work. Every now and then I'll be like, that's weird that they use that character instead of an actual character established from the comic book world. But my assumption is always that because it's the CW, they probably just didn't have the licensing for certain characters, so they have to write them a certain way to be different.
But back to my question overall, what are your then original characters? I don't know what that means because some people hate the idea first glance. I mean, if they want to hate it, that's fine. I just don't see the point of
yeah.
I just don't see the point of
hating. As a whole, I don't have anything against the original characters.
Yeah, not at all. About the first Blossom, what's up, Blossom? About the first 15 Sentais, they were in the about the first 15 Sentais, they were in the comics. Yeah, since they're officially in the Power Ranger comics, I guess the name I came up with are for nothing, huh?
Oh, okay? So the first 15 Sentai were actually featured in Power Ranger comic books. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar.
It must have been like one of the newer ones.
Since Kamen Rider Black RX and Ryuki are the only writers adapted here, how'd it be if some of the other writers were comic book characters in our adaptation? Gaim, Zero One, etc. Saber, I'm using for Dex's child. Yeah, I kind of dig the idea of utilizing them as comic book characters or um, novel characters in books or something like that.
Yeah, I would say definitely got to include X8 in there because X8, oh man, I just love the video game doctor like theme that they had going on with that season.
This one,
Yeah.
I personally will agree with you, Marceline, on this one. Cecile is probably the worst. I will agree with you in that regard.
What's funny is I liked her in the first 2 seasons, but like I can't remember. You know, it was around season 3 because for some reason it was around the time they introduced Ralph Dimley, which I thought was weird because they introduced him to be kind of a comedic relief. And then suddenly they turn Cecile into a goofball at the same time they bring him into the show. But like I swear it was like season 1 and 2, she was like a no nonsense type of character. And she was like one of the more grounded characters too, which was something I really liked about her. And it was just like in season 3, it's like they gave her powers and then suddenly she became goofy. It was just weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the complaint, because you mentioned DC and Marvel fans on the MCU side of things, I just can't relate to their dissatisfaction of original characters. I just don't think they've done it enough to have that sort of like hating that idea. I mean, but maybe there is some level of trepidation because of things like DC television and the idea of maybe them taking liberties at times. But I'm still trying to think of like I think Cecile is probably a pretty good example, but while I'm sure that there are other examples of original characters from DC television, I don't know if they've ever rubbed me the wrong way so much.
So the closest thing I get to getting rubbed the wrong way with the original characters is when it's an original character, but they call them something else. So for example, you had Lala, who was an original character, and I really liked him as a character in Black Lightning. But then out of nowhere, they're like, "Oh, he's the tattooed man." It's like that is not the tattooed man. And then you have the exact same thing with Grace Choi. Like again, a great original character that worked really well in Black Lightning, and then they're like, "Oh, and her name is Grace Choi." It's like that's not Grace Choi. Like that is not. So that's the only times where like I get annoyed with original characters is when it's an original character, but you give them a name and that name is not like that is not the character from the comic book. Basically, why are you giving it that comic book character name? You know what I mean?
I got you. But yeah, some great questions, man. Appreciate you guys certainly coming through with all these questions today. I believe I got everybody. Doomsday, yes. Marcelino, Peg C, Jessica, and Blossom today. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys so
For this
much.
one with Agents of Shield, in regards to that, you kind of have to come up with original characters because if you use up all the comic book characters in a ABC TV show that not a lot of people watch, and then suddenly the MCU can't use those characters, you kind of shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they kind of have to use original characters for like that kind of show.
But all right, guys, that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today. So thank you everybody who certainly participated. I personally always love hearing your guys' thoughts and your questions each and every week. Always great to bounce some of your ideas off of you guys and have some good conversations. So always appreciate it. Stuart, what else you got planned today, man?
Today, going to be celebrating Father's Day. Gonna go visit my dad, and then of course visit my fiance's dad. So yeah, it's gonna be
Nice.
a nice day. Also, hopefully, I'm gonna get some laundry done.
Nice, I feel you. Yeah, we had a big crawfish seafood boil yesterday at the
Ooh.
house. Celebrate my girlfriend's sister Alexis's birthday yesterday. So we had the whole family over, had some great food as of yesterday. Today, I think we're going to her job that's doing like a distillery like tour for like Father's Day or something like that. So I think myself and Cindy's dad are going to be going. So it should be fun, and then probably come home and work on some more content, man, because I still got a bunch of Fan Expo Dallas panels to post from last weekend. I got some Tokuger to certainly catch up on. I got wrestling to watch. I got the boys to watch. There's just so much shit kind of going on around here. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. But
You're
should be it.
gonna. I'm so glad no one in the chat spoiled it. But let's just say there's a cameo in episode 2 of The Boys season 4 that you're gonna love.
Okay, okay. I look forward to it, man. I really do. But all right, guys. Thank you so much for certainly joining us for another episode of A Plus Hero Report. We certainly will be back next weekend for you guys, so we'll certainly see you guys next Sunday. Stuart, if people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 on Instagram, and hopefully I'll be doing some more streaming on A Plus Opinions on Twitch. Again, it'll be just don't take what I say seriously. I'm just going to be going all savage just for fun, and think of me like a live Twitch version of the Angry Video Game Nerd, because I had fun doing that. Like when I was doing Master Duel, like I was basically like doing a lot of cursing and stuff, and I'm like, this is fun. I'm just gonna go a little more savage next time.
I love it, man.
I'm going to purposely play games that piss me off because I think it'll be fun.
But if you want to follow us on social media everywhere at A Plus Opinions, ladies and gentlemen, we also have a Discord forum community in the description box below if you like your forum community setups. We also, if you want to follow us, definitely subscribe to us over on this channel here. Click that bell notification too, so when we drop brand new videos, you'll certainly be notified. And also follow us especially over on Facebook. That's where we keep you up to date throughout the week on news articles, discussions, trailers, posters, clips, whatever you can think of. And then we take 6 topics from our Facebook page and we talk about them here over on our YouTube channel at the end of the week. We got plenty more content headed your way throughout the week. So subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media, and we'll see you guys next Sunday. But until then, do us a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.